The Li family in Mingyue City is a well-known large family in the local area. The head of the Li family is not only very capable of giving birth, but their children are also very promising. The eldest young master has extraordinary talents, and has gained fame from a young age. The eldest young lady was even recognized by the great master from a young age and accepted as a disciple. There are elder brothers and sisters as role models, and the younger brothers and sisters below are also striving to improve, all of whom are geniuses, except for Changyue, who is not well known. Changyue is naturally weak and has been in poor health since childhood. She even coughs 3 times when taking 2 steps, so she has almost no presence at home, and no one in the Li family has any expectations for her. However, only Changyue herself knows in the sea area thousands of miles away from Mingyue City, a towering python is freely stretching its mountain-like body at the bottom of the sea. Keywords of the novel. When a sick and weak girl masters the clone of a foreign beast without a pop-up window, when a sick and weak girl masters the clone of a foreign beast. Download the complete text, and when a sick and weak girl masters the clone of a foreign beast, read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Li Parent Month. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Li Parental Monthly Family in Mingyue City. Early in the morning, cheers echoed from the Li family's martial arts arena, as their disciples began practicing in the morning. As a martial arts family, the foundation of the family lies in the practice of winter, summer, and summer. Only in this way can the family continue to thrive. Li Changyue passed by the martial arts arena with her maid Changyue, walking slowly, just as Li Changyue, who was practicing martial arts, saw her. "Chimei, where are you going?" Li Changyue jumped up to Changyue with a light and agile movement, indicating that she was doing well in her lightness skills. During the morning exercise, Li Changyue wore the Li family's standard martial arts uniform, with a bright red forehead tied to her forehead. Her head was tied high with black and bright green hair tied into a ponytail. With her movements, her ponytail swayed and she looked youthful and beautiful. Compared to Li Changyue, Changyue's face was pale, wearing an emerald green long dress and a pearl jade ring on her head. She didn't seem like a child of a martial arts family at all, but rather like a young lady with an unstoppable front door. Cough. Changyue covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief, couldn't help coughing twice, and then whispered to Li Changyue, "Fourth sister, I'll go out with Changyue to buy some medicine." "Miss C." The maid beside her, Changyue, quickly bowed to Li Changyue. Li Changyue casually waved his hand at Changyue and looked at Changyue, asking, "Why don't you instruct the servants to do it? Are you so weak that you can go out? Or are you saying that the servants are cheating and bullying you privately?" Changyue has a low sense of belonging in the Li family and is not favored. She has been secretly bullied by servants before. At that time, Changyue was only a few years old. If it weren't for being discovered by Feng's mother-in-law and sued his wife, Changyue wouldn't have known how much bullying she would have suffered. Grandma Feng used to be the personal maid of Changyue's biological mother. After the master passed away, she stayed by the side of the young master, and Changyue was raised by her own hands. Speaking of Changyue's biological mother, she is Changyue's father, the concubine of Li Xian, the head of the Li family. Her name is Su Shuyuan, and she is the daughter of a small aristocratic family in Mingyue City. Later, the Su family was destroyed by their enemies, and Su Shuyuan, who had survived by chance, offered herself as a reward and begged Li Xian to help her seek revenge. Li Xian is lascivious, and Su Shuyuan is extremely beautiful. He naturally cannot resist this temptation and immediately agrees. However, Li Xian's lust turned to lust, but his strength was very good. Coupled with the fact that the Li family is a big family, they have good connections and intelligence networks. Soon, Li Xian successfully avenged Su Shuyuan, and naturally gained the commitment of Su Shuyuan, this great beauty. Unfortunately, Su Shuyuan's life was not good, and she passed away shortly after giving birth to a long month due to illness. According to the doctor, it was due to depression in her heart. Probably because the fetus was not well nurtured, Changyue was born weak. If it weren't for the lack of money in the Li family, it would be uncertain whether Changyue could survive. Although Lady Li of the Li family usually doesn't pay much attention to Changyue, she has never been short in terms of food and clothing. Over the years, she has paid a lot of money for Changyue's illness and medical treatment. Changyue was secretly bullied by servants in the past, and the eldest lady did not tolerate it. She directly killed all those servants and severely reorganized the family atmosphere. From then on, no one dared to bully Changyue, even though she was not favored at home. This is a world where martial arts are paramount, and human life is not worth money, especially for ordinary people. Therefore, when the eldest lady ordered the killing, she showed no mercy. On the contrary, Changyue was greatly frightened back then. When Madame killed the servant, she was in front of Changyue. To this day, Changyue still remembers the blood in her eyes at that time, and she was so frightened that she fell seriously ill. But now, Changyue wouldn't be scared by such a small scene anymore. After all, by the way, the soul of Changyue is not native to this world, but comes from another world called Blue Star. When I was at Blue Star, Changyue was just an ordinary social animal, working hard every day and earning little money throughout the year. He also contracted cancer at a young age and eventually died in bed. Originally, Changyue thought that her soul would return to the underworld after her death, but she didn't expect that when she realized it again, she would fall into Su Shuyuan's belly. Long Moon lived in a world of rule of law in his past life, growing up under a red flag. He had never seen a dead dog before, and he had never seen a bloody dead person. The scene of being naturally killed by the Grand Madam back then was frightening. It was precisely that time that Changyue truly realized that the world she lived in was very different from her previous life. After a serious illness, Changyue changed her mindset. When Madame was able to take life and death from her servants, would stronger people appear in the future? Will the Li family also shift to the position of servants? It's not that Changyue sympathizes with his subordinates who have bullied him, it's just a bit of a pity for others. I have lived 2 lives, and in my previous life, I passed away at an early age. Unfortunately, I am destined for a long month now. 4th sister, it's nothing. Changyue shook her head when she heard Li Changyu's words. I just stayed at home for too long and wanted to go out and breathe, and also bought some medicine. Due to his weak physique, Li Changyue rarely goes out for a long time and may not go out once a month. Therefore, upon hearing this, Li Changyue nodded in understanding. I see, you should go out for more walks. You should go back early, but don't stay outside for too long. It's not good if you get sick again because of this. I understand, Changyue nodded and agreed. Changyue, come back and practice your martial arts quickly. What are you doing there? At this moment, someone happened to be calling Li Changyue. Li Changyue quickly responded, come on, come on, come on. As she ran towards the martial arts arena, she didn't forget to turn back and said to Changyue, I'm going back to practice martial arts, 7th sister. You should go quickly. Changyue nodded lightly and looked towards the martial arts arena. It was her 5th sister Li Changyun, who was also Li Changyue's twin sister, who called Li Changyue away. When it comes to Long Yu's brothers and sisters, we have to mention Li Xian, the master of the Li family. The fact that Master Li is lecherous is well known in Mingyue City. In addition to his eldest wife, he also has 16 concubines. Some of them are his own favorites, while others flatter and give him gifts. In any case, he does not refuse to come for women. Changyue's birth mother was Li Xian's 11 concubines. The eldest lady and 16 concubines gave birth to a total of 10 children for Li Xian, of which the eldest young master and the eldest young lady were both from the eldest lady. These 10 children of Li Xian, except for the weak Changyue and the young Jiuan Shi, all have very good martial arts training talents, especially the eldest son Li Changming and the eldest daughter Li Changning. Grand Prince Li Changming is just over 20 years old, and his martial arts cultivation is already very outstanding. In the past 2 years, he has also established a good reputation in the martial arts world. In order to cultivate martial arts, Li Changming has been walking outside for many years, rarely at home. Miss Li Changming is 16 years old and has been recognized as a disciple by the great power of Chaoyun sect since childhood. As soon as she reached her age, she was received to practice by Chaoyun sect and is currently not at home. Due to these two outstanding children, the position of the eldest lady as the head of the household is very stable, which is also the reason why she never cares about or treats illegitimate children harshly. Of course, the reason for the stability of the Grand Madame's position is not only due to her descendants, but also because of her outstanding martial arts cultivation. Back then, Changyue witnessed with her own eyes that she whipped a servant in half, and the scene was as bloody as it could be. Anyway, due to the existence of martial arts, in Changyue's view, this world is very abnormal, and the highly cultivated martial artists are all non-human beings. As for why the eldest lady, a woman with profound martial arts cultivation, can tolerate her husband Li Xian taking concubines one after another, it must be said about the eldest lady's family. The eldest lady's family is not a big family. When she was not prosperous, she could even be said to be unknown. Later, she gradually developed with the support of the Li family, so the eldest lady naturally became short in front of Li Xian. At the same time, Madame is able to achieve today's cultivation, and the Li family's resource support is also indispensable. Money and martial arts come from the Li family. Looking at Li Changyun from a distance, Changyue left with mulberry leaves. At the martial arts arena, Li Changyun stopped waving his long sword and said to his sister in a sullen tone, "What are you doing with Li Changyue? She's a sick seedling and getting close to her can be contagious." Upon hearing this, Li Changyue gave Li Changyun a hard tap on the head. "What nonsense is that? Changyue is your sister. Don't be so ill-mannered as to talk about her every time." Li Changyun waved his long sword again and muttered, "I didn't say anything wrong." Li Changyue shook her head helplessly and didn't say more. A martial arts family has produced a sickly seedling that cannot even hold a sword, and there are many people in the family discussing it. Changyue is not clear about the dialogue between the twin sisters. She and Li Changyun are not familiar with each other. They don't meet at ordinary times, and they talk less. After leaving the house, Changyue took Sanji to the pharmacy. She told Li Changyue that buying medicine was not a lie, but she didn't buy the medicine she usually takes, but the medicine she uses to cultivate martial arts. Once upon a time, Changyue's health was very poor and she couldn't practice martial arts, but from today on, it's different. In a martial arts world where the law of the fittest prevails, how could Long Moon allow himself to continue to exist as a weak person? In order to cultivate, she has been working hard over the years. Mingyue City is a large city with abundant resources, so Changyue easily bought the medicinal herb she wanted at the pharmacy. Martial arts practitioners need to open their meridians in order to officially enter the martial arts world. The medicine purchased by Changyue is used to open their meridians. Martial arts are prevalent in this world, and medicinal herbs for opening veins can be purchased with money. However, it is difficult to buy advanced martial arts and techniques, but these two are not a big problem for Changyue. "Miss, where are we going next? Are we going home?" Sanji asked as she walked out of the pharmacy with her medicine bag. Changyue shook her head and said, "No, I have to go to another place." After saying that, she walked in one direction. Sanji didn't know where her young lady was going, but she still followed her master honestly. The second place Changyue went was a jewelry store. As soon as the staff in the shop saw the master and servant enter, they immediately welcomed them with enthusiasm. "Miss, please come in, please come in." The waiter warmly said as they introduced the two into the store, "What do you want to buy, Mississippi?" Longmonth dressed well, and at first glance it was clear that she was not a typical lady from an ordinary family, so the staff was very attentive. Longyu casually glanced at the shop and said, "I want to buy a few jade stones. Do you have any recommended ones?" Upon hearing this, the waiter immediately smiled and said, "You've come to the right place. Our Rui Pavilion is one of the top old shops in Mingyue City, and you have all kinds of jade and stones you want. Hurry up. Please this way. Please this way." The waiter then led Changyue to a platform, which was filled with various exquisitely carved jade and stones. "Take a look at which one you like, I'll show it to you." Long Yu picked up a piece that looked good and asked, "How much does this piece cost?" The clerk's eyes lit up as he saw this. "You have such a good eye. This is a top-grade warm jade from Yuzhou, which only requires 200 gold. Changyue knew that the world was divided into 13 provinces. Mingyue City was located in Minzhou, and Yuzhou was famous for producing various high-quality jade and stones. 200 gold. Just need it. Changyue felt that this guy might be joking with him. 200 gold, not 200 silver, let alone 200 copper coins. Is this really stealing money? Do all your big stores sell things this way? She really can't afford 200 gold. Although the Li family has money, they are naturally weak and very poor. Most of her money has been taken by her mother-in-law Feng to buy supplements for her. Now, all her possessions are only a little over 30 gold, which she has worked hard to save over the years. Hey! Poor! 30 gold is quite a lot. It's already a huge sum for ordinary people, but it's not enough to buy luxury goods. The waiter saw that Changyue's face had changed and quickly explained, "Miss, we don't really need this jade at all. Yuzhou is not close to us, and a piece of high-quality jade produced in Yuzhou is not commonly seen on weekdays." Long Yu didn't say much, put down the jade in his hand, and took another piece of slightly inferior quality, asking, "What about this piece?" 150 gold. Can't afford it, put it down. What about this one? 100 gold. Can't afford it, put it down. I asked several times in a row, but I couldn't afford it for a long time. Changyue asked awkwardly, "Do you have anything of average quality here?" The guy saw that Changyue both felt expensive and didn't say much. He still wore a smile on his face and said, "I'm afraid he doesn't match you, miss, because his appearance is too ordinary." Although Changyue's face was unusually pale due to her weak physique, it must be said that she was very beautiful, inheriting Su Shuiyuan's beauty, and even more so, although she was still young and had not fully grown up. A beautiful woman naturally needs to be paired with high-quality jade and stones. Not to mention whether it is suitable or not, buying jade for a long time has other uses, and I'm afraid the quality is too poor. Looking at the dazzling array of jade stones in front of her, Changyue suddenly had a sudden inspiration and asked her colleague, "Did you all carve these jade stones yourself?" The waiter immediately raised his head and proudly replied, "Of course, our Rui Pavilion has nicknames in various places, and the carving masters in the pavilion are famous all over the world." Changyue's eyes lit up and she asked, "Do you sell the leftover scraps from carving jade?" Anyway, she didn't buy jade for wearing, so whether it's scraps or not doesn't matter. Hey buddy, when you hear this, you're taken aback. Buy scraps. What's the use of this thing? Why is this young lady so strange? Although the guy's heart was full of twists and turns, his expression remained unchanged and his professional ethics were very high. "Well, we haven't sold any leftover materials yet, why don't you wait here, customer? Let me ask." Upon hearing this, Changyue felt a sense of joy and said, "I'm sorry to trouble you." The guy nodded and turned around to go inside the store, but soon walked out again. "Miss, our shopkeeper said we can take you to take a look. In fact, the edges and corners of jade such as Rui Pavilion are also useful, such as carving jade buttons, rings, etc., which can also be sold. But since someone wants to buy, they can also sell it." Under the guidance of the staff, Changyue arrived at the backyard of Rui Pavilion, where the carving masters of Rui Pavilion worked. However, Changyue did not see the so-called carving masters, but was led by the staff to the place where the jade and stone scraps were stored. In a room, Changyue successfully bought the jade and stone scraps she wanted. As they were all scraps, the price was very cheap, and she bought a large bag for 30 gold coins. As Changyue was sent out, the waiter happily said, "Girl, come again next time." Although the products sold are scraps, the 30 gold coins are still quite a lot. After all, the prices of finished jade and stones in Rui Pavilion are high, and it is impossible for people to buy them every day. They mostly sell jewelry such as beads and hairpins, and their profits are far inferior to those of high-quality jade. Returning to the Li family, Li Changyue and others had not finished their morning exercises yet. Changyue went straight back to her own yard, and Grandma Feng was waiting at the gate, looking up. Upon seeing Changyue and Sanji return, Grandma Feng quickly welcomed them and said, "My sister-in-law, you have come back." She casually took the package containing jade in Sanji's hand. Changyue's health is not good. Grandma Feng usually holds her in the palm of her hand, afraid of falling, and in her mouth, afraid of melting. Today, she went out alone. How could Grandma Feng not worry? Grandma Feng is also a martial arts practitioner, carrying a bundle effortlessly and walking with a tiger-like vigor compared to mulberry leaves. Sanji has also practiced martial arts with Granny Feng in recent years, but her aptitude is average, and coupled with her young age, she has not developed much cultivation. "Miss, haven't you encountered anything outside?" Grandma Feng asked with concern. In a world where martial arts are prevalent, there are not uncommon examples of accidents that occur while walking on the road, let alone Longyue, who is still a weak and sickly person. Changyue smiled and shook her head. "It's been a smooth journey." That's good, that's good." Grandma Feng's wrinkles on her face immediately unfolded upon hearing this. She knew why Changyue went out today, so she didn't ask much about anything else. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Embarking on the path of martial arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Embarking on the path of martial arts. After returning to the yard, Changyue asked Sanji to hand over the medicine package to Grandma Feng. "Grandma, prepare to help me open my pulse." Grandma Feng took the medicine package and excitedly said, "Miss, put it on the old lady." "Sanji, come and help me boil water." After that, Grandma Feng walked towards the location of the kitchen. "Ah!" Sanji responded joyfully. Before, Sanji didn't know what Miss and Mother-in-law were busy with, but now she finally knows that Miss is going to start practicing. Changyue is born weak and needs to take medicine for years, so she has a small kitchen in her yard, which saves a lot of trouble for Grandma Feng to prepare the medicine needed for pulse opening. When Grandma Feng and Sanji were brewing pulse opening medicine, Changyue returned to her room to calm her mood. After waiting for so many years, how could Changyue not be excited to finally start practicing? Grandma Feng spent a lot of time preparing medicine. During this time, Sanji went to the main kitchen in the mansion to pick up lunch and returned. After lunch, the master and servant continued to wait for the medicine to be prepared, and it wasn't until mid-afternoon that the medicine was ready. "Miss, we can start now," said Grandma Feng. "Okay." Longyue took a deep breath and walked into the room, where she saw a wooden bucket filled with medicine. The medicine was dark green and emitted a pungent smell. After taking off her clothes, Changyue stepped into a wooden bucket and immersed her body in the medicine, leaving only her head outside. At the beginning of soaking for a long month, she didn't feel anything, but as time passed, she gradually felt waves of stinging pain coming from her body, as if there were worms crawling along the blood. The process of opening the pulse was very painful, as Longyue had known for a long time. After all, Grandma Feng had also helped Sanji open the pulse before. At that time, Sanji's mournful cries almost spread throughout the yard. If it weren't for the remote location of the yard, few people would have come, and it wouldn't have caused much commotion. As the pain increased, Changyue unconsciously let out a low moan. Grandma Feng outside the door, due to practicing martial arts, easily caught the movement in the room and couldn't help but ask, "Miss, are you okay?" When Changyue opened her veins back then, she didn't receive the care of Granny Feng. When Changyue screamed in pain, Granny Feng even scolded her for not being successful. Now it's her turn as a young lady, and Granny Feng's attitude is completely different. Changyue gritted her teeth and said, "No, it's okay, I can hold on." Grandma Feng knew that in order to practice martial arts, she had to pass the level of opening the pulse. She could only endure heartache and say, "You can hold on for a while longer, and with patience, you will pass." As time went on and the long month passed, she finally felt the pain gradually weakening. At the same time, a subtle heat flow began to emerge in her body and gradually spread out from the dantian area to her whole body. To achieve success in martial arts, one must have an understanding of the human body. Back then, Changyue was just a newcomer in a different world and had no idea where the elixir field was or what the meridians were. However, in order to cultivate, she had learned everything she needed to know from her mother-in-law Feng over the years. The beginning of martial arts cultivation is to open a gap between the closed meridians in the human body and connect them with the elixir field. During cultivation, true qi is born from the elixir field and travels throughout the body along the meridians. This step can only be achieved through meditation, which is what Long Moon is currently doing. After successfully opening the meridian, one naturally enters the first realm of martial arts cultivation. The opening meridian realm. Afterwards, cultivation requires the use of techniques to continuously expand the body's meridians, gradually opening up the closed meridians throughout the body. The human body has a total of 12 meridians. When all 12 meridians are opened and connected to the elixir field, martial arts cultivation will enter the second realm. The Mingyue realm. Feeling that true qi had already been generated in the dantian area, Changyue quickly began practicing according to the meridian movement method recorded in the jade bone technique. Martial arts cultivation requires cultivation techniques, and as a martial arts aristocratic family, the Li family naturally has its own cultivation techniques. However, the jade bone technique that Long Moon cultivates does not come from the Li family, but is inherited from his mother Su Shuiyuan. When the Su family was exterminated, Su Shuiyuan claimed to be a revenge, but the fact was not that. The root cause was the jade bone technique. However, Su Shuiyuan did not tell anyone, including Li Xian, that besides herself, the only one who knew the truth was the Feng mother-in-law who personally served her. A top-notch martial arts technique is enough to cause a bloody storm in the martial arts world, and the jade bone technique is a top-notch technique. In terms of cultivation speed and bonus to combat power, jade bone technique is not the most outstanding, and may even be slightly stronger than second-rate martial arts in the martial arts world. However, its most unique feature is that as cultivation deepens, it can gradually change a person's bones. Martial arts cultivation requires roots and bones, and the quality of the roots and bones to a certain extent determines the upper limit of a person's martial arts achievements. The reason why Miss Li of the Li family has been favored and adopted as a disciple by the powerful members of the Chaoyun sect since childhood is because she has top-notch roots. A person with superior bones can practice for thousands of miles in a day, while Changyue, due to her congenital weakness, was born without any bones. This is also the reason why she was judged by the Li family as unable to cultivate martial arts. Changyue has now obtained a bone, but it is only the lowest bone, so the jade bone technique is currently the most suitable cultivation method for her. As for how Changyue's bones came about, there's another chance. After Su Shuiyuan's death, she entrusted the jade bone technique to Grandma Feng and instructed her not to disclose it to anyone except for her daughter Changyue. At that time, Changyue was only born not long ago and had not yet been determined that he could not cultivate. Grandma Feng is currently practicing the jade bone technique, which was approved by her master Su Shuiyuan. After Su Shuiyuan found out that she was not yet alive, she entrusted her child to the only trusted mother-in-law, Feng. Of course, the child's future cultivation also requires the mother-in-law's attention. Therefore, Feng's mother-in-law's practice of the jade bone technique has an extraordinary role in guiding Changyue in the future. After an unknown amount of time, the pain in Long Yu's body had completely disappeared, replaced by a continuous stream of heat. She knew she had succeeded. After opening her eyes, Changyue slowly stood up from the barrel. At this point, the dark green medicine in the barrel had become clear, and the pungent taste had also disappeared. Obviously, the medicinal properties of the medicine had been fully absorbed by the long month. Upon hearing the commotion in the room, Grandma Feng softly called out, "Mississippi." Changyue replied, "Grandma, come in." With a creaking sound, Grandma Feng pushed the door in and asked excitedly, "How's it going, Mississippi?" "It's done." When Changyue was 10 years old, she was determined that she couldn't practice after touching her bones. However, a few days ago, she suddenly told Grandma Feng that she wanted to practice. In fact, Grandma Feng's heart was beating drums. After all, how can she practice without a bone? But Changyue confidently stated that she can do it. What can Grandma Feng do? Of course, she can only help. After all, she is a young lady who has been raised by her own hard work. Now it has truly succeeded. It must have been a mistake made by the Li family when they were feeling their bones back then. Grandma Feng thought to herself, this unreliable Li family. I almost missed my miss. Grandma Feng scolded the boneless elder of the Li family 108 times. How could my young lady not have a bone? The growth of the root bone takes time. Usually after the age of 10, it can be fully formed. Therefore, most people officially practice after the age of 10, through special bone-touching techniques, determine the level of the root bone, and then teach the techniques to start practicing. The Li family has a dedicated bone-touching elder who provides regular bone-touching services to their aged children every year. Changyue is now 14 years old and has been practicing 4 years later than others. Her bones are not outstanding, so she needs to work even harder in the future. But being able to cultivate would be great. Thinking of this, Changyue's face couldn't help but show a brilliant smile. Grandma Feng placed her hand on Changyue's wrist and indeed felt the faint true energy flowing through her body. She couldn't help but smile and say, I really succeeded, I really succeeded. God bless me, God bless me. After being happy, Grandma Feng called Changyue in to tidy up the barrel and said to Changyue, Miss, you have just started practicing and need to be more familiar. Changyue and I won't bother you anymore. If you have any questions about practicing, just ask Grandma directly. Okay, you can rest assured, said Changyue. After Grandma Feng and Changyue left, Changyue closed the door and sat cross-legged on the bed. At the same time, an additional light curtain appeared in front of her, with lines of characters appearing on the light curtain. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Lower and lower level skill. Jade bone technique, first glimpse of 1% path, martial arts realm. Kaimai realm 1 second body. Xianin snake as a traveler, Changyue also has golden fingers. This light curtain appeared on Changyue's 10th birthday, and when it first appeared, it startled Changyue. However, Changyue was able to cultivate thanks to this golden finger. Previously, the column on the light screen displayed none, but a few days ago it finally went from none to inferior. When it comes to being inferior, Changyue is very angry. Let's just be inferior. If you insist on being inferior, you should know that there is no definition of being inferior outside. The worst is inferior, then moderate, and finally superior. What Changyue feels at this moment is the deep malice from Golden Finger. Divine and special, inferior. The section on cultivation techniques was originally not available, but now it is displayed with the help of Long Yu's ability to cultivate. But what is in the parentheses after that? Proficiency. Shouldn't it be? Changyue is a bit confused, but it seems like it is. Let's explore it slowly in the future. Although Golden Finger has been here for several years, it has not been fully understood for a long time. As for the second body in the last column of the light curtain, it's a long story. Rather than saying that the light curtain is the golden finger of Changyue, it's more accurate to say that this second body is the one that can help Changyue grow from scratch. This second body plays the greatest role. There are warriors and exotic beasts in this world. Changyue's second body is a snake of exotic beasts, but she is currently not by her side. Closing the light curtain, Changyue began to practice. She took out a piece of jade and stone scraps purchased from Rui Pavilion from the bedside, picked one and held it in her palm, then silently practiced the jade bone technique. The jade bone technique not only changes the root bone, but also has a major feature of accelerating cultivation with the help of jade stones. There is spiritual energy in heaven and earth, which is invisible to ordinary people, but jade contains a small amount of spiritual energy. The jade bone technique can absorb and refine it to strengthen its practitioners. Martial artists practice qi and blood, which are constantly refined and transformed into their own true qi. Therefore, martial artists usually have a very large appetite, are poor in literature and rich in martial arts. Practicing martial arts requires resources, and that's all. The jade bone technique can not only transform true qi through refining qi and blood, but also absorb spiritual energy from jade to achieve this. With the operation of the jade bone technique, Changyue could feel a special breath flowing out of the jade, following her meridians into the elixir field. Then, through the refinement of the jade bone technique, it transformed into true qi, which then flowed out of the elixir field and impacted other closed areas of the meridians through the already opened gaps. When true qi flows in the body, for a long time, it feels like soaking in a hot spring, warm and comfortable all over, as if all the cells in the body are breathing. It's so wonderful. This is the feeling of cultivation. It was really wrong not to cultivate in the past few years. The time during cultivation always passes very quickly, and without realizing it, the sky becomes completely dark. After practicing for most of the afternoon, Changyue opened her eyes and felt relaxed all over, as if all the past illnesses had gone with the wind. "Miss, it's time for dinner." The sound of mulberry leaves echoed outside the door. "Okay, I'm coming." Long Yu flipped out of bed with incredibly light movements. During dinner time, Grandma Feng asked, "Miss, how have you been practicing?" Changyue happily said, "Very smooth." Upon hearing this, Grandma Feng immediately felt proud and said, "You are truly my young lady. She is talented and only cultivates martial arts. I knew I couldn't help you. It's not as impressive as you said. I'm just a lowly person, or a lowly person. I feel a bit embarrassed to be praised by my mother-in-law for a long time." After dinner, Changyue consulted Grandma Feng about some cultivation issues and returned to her room to continue practicing. The feeling of cultivation was really wonderful, and now Changyue is a bit addicted to it and cannot extricate herself. This practice lasted until midnight. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Second Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Second Body. Late at night, Changyue reluctantly withdrew from her cultivation and let out a deep sigh. "I really can't bear to stop." But not stopping is not enough. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Long Moon's consciousness gradually withdrew from her body. When she opened her eyes again, she had reached a deep sea where she had transformed from a human to a snake. This is the second body of Changyue, also known as a clone, a strange beast. The main body of Changyue and the second body share the same consciousness, with the main body in Mingyue City and the clone Xianin snake in an unknown sea area. After the arrival of the golden finger that night, Changyue had a strange dream. She dreamed that she had become a small snake, breaking out of its eggshell and gently stretching her body in the water. When she woke up the next day, she found an extra column on her screen of light, with a second body. A water snake. At that time, Changyue had just obtained the golden finger and didn't understand what was going on with this second body. Then, at night, she fell into a dream again. At that time, Changyue thought it was just a dream. In my dream, Changyue transformed into a small water snake, swimming in the water. Yes, Long Moon's second body was not an alien animal at the beginning of its birth, but an ordinary water snake. She was born with many brothers and sisters. She also saw the snake mother. When Long Yu was still exploring the new world like other snake brothers and sisters, the danger suddenly came. A huge fish appeared above them, then opened its mouth and ate the snake mother. The big fish's sharp teeth instantly bit the snake mother in two. Changyue was so scared at that time. Although she thought it was just a dream, the overwhelming pressure of Yu was too real. Later, Changyue realized that it was not a dream anymore because she felt the pain. After the big fish ate the mother snake, it began to prey on its brothers and sisters. The little snakes were just born, ignorant, and only knew how to avoid instinctively. But they could not escape the chase of the big fish, and soon were eaten one by one. The water carried by the big fish as it swam stirred up the little snake, Changyue, and it kept rolling in the water, hitting the rocks heavily. The intense pain made Changyue shiver. Realizing that this was not a dream and not knowing what had happened, Changyue could only make an effort to escape. Fortunately, compared with the ignorant snake brothers and sisters, Long Yu was conscious and successfully escaped the chase of the big fish in the chaos, but his brothers and sisters had none left. It wasn't until the big fish left that Changyue dared to emerge trembling from the crevice in the reef. From then on, Long Moon's daytime consciousness will return to its original form, and at night it will transform back into a water snake. In the first few days, I turned into a water snake and felt very confused. I hid in the crevices of the reef and didn't dare to go out until a sense of hunger came. Since birth, this little snake has never eaten anything. Changyue didn't know if this little snake would die of starvation, but just in case, it had to grit its head and go out to hunt. At first, it ate only small fish and shrimp the size of a thumb in the water, which even if the second body of a long month was just a newborn snake, it could easily catch. When it comes to eating raw food, initially it is resistant, but fortunately it has strong adaptability, and all problems become insignificant in the face of survival. The water area where Changyue is located is very rich in food. As long as you dare to go out, you are not afraid of being hungry. Of course, danger can also come at any time. Long Moon has encountered predators more than once, sometimes huge fish, sometimes sea snakes. Fortunately, it managed to avoid them without any danger. As an ordinary little snake, its growth rate for a long month is quite fast. After a few months, through continuous feeding, it has grown from chopsticks to nearly 2 meters in length, able to capture more prey and encounter much less danger. During this period, Changyue encountered the big fish that had eaten the snake mother again, but it was too big and Changyue was still not its opponent, so she could only avoid it from a distance. Through continuous exploration of the second body, Changyue later discovered a particularly important thing, which was that every time the second body finished eating and returned to its original form, she could feel a warm flow flowing through her body. Later, she realized that it was actually qi and blood. That is to say, every time the second body eats, a portion of the qi and blood it digests will be transmitted to the body of the Long Moon, thereby strengthening its body. Although the amount of qi and blood it receives each time is not large, it actually improves her physical condition. This discovery gave hope to the frail and sickly Changyue. Her health was too poor, even though the Li family had been taking medication to support her, Changyue still worried that she would suddenly be unable to survive one day. It's hard to live again, how can Long Yu accept a second premature death? So from that day on, Changyue became more focused on her second body, and every day when it got dark, she would switch her consciousness to that side, controlling her second body to go out and search for food. The time in the sea where the second body is located seems to be different from that in Mingyue City. Changyue transferred his consciousness to the second body in the dark, but the sea where the second body is located is still during the day. But strangely enough, Long Yu didn't dwell much on it. Her primary task was to survive, nothing else was important. After that period of exercise, Changyue has initially adapted to using the body of a snake to fight and hunt. 2 years later, Changyue's body was greatly improved under the nourishment of accumulated qi and blood. Although she still looked weak, she knew best that compared to before, her body was already much healthier, at least not in danger of dying at any time. 2 years of growth have also led to a transformation of Changyue's second body. Although I don't know what kind of water snake my second body is, through continuous feeding, my second body has grown to 5 meters long. In my previous life, it could be called a giant python, even larger than my mother snake, and has become a true predator. However, Changyue still lacks the confidence to provoke that big fish. Changyue only found out later that the big fish was the hegemon of the nearby sea area, and all the creatures in this area were its food, including Changyue's second body. However, when Long Yu's second body grew to the point where he could seek revenge, the big fish provoked his enemies to come to him. That day, Changyue went out hunting as usual and had not yet eaten half full. Suddenly, he felt a violent tremor from the sea, and there seemed to be a faint roar coming from afar. Out of curiosity, Changyue carefully approached the place while controlling his second body. From a distance, he saw 2 giant beasts fighting, one of which was his old enemy, the big fish, and the other was a giant octopus. The octopus tightly entangled the big fish with its tentacles, making it unable to escape no matter how hard it struggled. In the end, it was torn apart, with broken meat and blood scattered everywhere in the seawater. The flesh and blood of a big fish seemed to have a great attraction to other creatures on the seabed, including the second body of a long moon. Other creatures kept snatching the flesh and blood of the big fish, but they were all torn apart by the giant octopus. Although Changyue was also attracted by the flesh and blood of the big fish, she restrained her inner desires with reason. After all, that big octopus was not easy to provoke. Finally, the octopus ate up the large body of the big fish, leaving only some residue in place before flying away. But those residues were still being plundered by other marine creatures, and Changyue was fortunate enough to grab 2 pieces. Since eating the flesh and blood of the big fish, Changyue has found that her second body has become different. It seems to be able to feel a surge of energy inside her body. Later, Changyue found out that the big fish was a strange beast. As an ordinary water snake, Changyue ate the flesh and blood of the strange beast, and her body received unprecedented nourishment. The change in the second body was also reflected in Changyue's body. Changyue felt that the shackles that had been pressing on her body had become lighter, and even her breathing had become much easier. But this has not yet reached the level of qualitative change. The hegemon in this sea area is gone. In order to compete for the new hegemon position, large predators nearby engaged in a fierce battle that lasted for a long time, but did not participate once a month. Apart from the big fish, there is no second exotic beast nearby. Ordinary marine creatures have ignorant consciousness and only rely on their instincts to act, so their fighting is very fierce, and only a few can survive in the end. After hiding for a long time and secretly developing, after a period of time, it unknowingly grew into a top predator nearby, with the confidence to wrestle with other predators. Among them, the 2 pieces of big fish minced meat it ate played a significant role. But it remained very stable and did not go out to wave casually. So another year passed, and after a year of fighting, only 1 shark and 1 swordfish were left nearby, which could be called top predators except for Changyue. Later, the shark and swordfish fought fiercely over the cave left by the big fish, while Changyue quietly hid on the side and watched. When both fish were defeated, it quickly attacked and swallowed all the seriously injured fish, then occupied the cave left by the big fish. It is in the cave of the big fish that the long moon body has the opportunity to obtain its roots and bones. After swallowing sharks and swordfish, Changyue became the most powerful presence in this sea area, so it naturally occupied the original cave of the big fish. Because he had just swallowed 2 large pieces of food, Changyue prepared to digest them in the cave. When it swam deep into the cave, it saw a fluorescent water plant inside, with a fist-sized fruit growing on top of it. The overall color of the fruit is deep blue, and under the reflection of the light, it is like a dream, like a beautiful gemstone. Importantly, at the moment of seeing the fruit, Long Yu's second body became hot and dry, as if urging it to quickly swallow the fruit. The snake was clearly a cold-blooded animal, but at that moment, Changyue only felt the blood boiling. Fruit is undoubtedly a treasure, perhaps a true natural treasure, but Changyue dare not swallow it directly. Who knows if this thing will lie on the board after eating it? Out of caution, Changyue's second body guarded by the water grass. The fruit doesn't seem to have matured yet, so even though it may be a treasure, Changyue didn't rush to deal with it. In the blink of an eye, several months passed. After digesting the shark and swordfish in his stomach, Changyue felt even stronger, and at the same time, the fruit was gradually maturing. To Changyue's surprise, as the fruit approached its ripening stage, its attraction to the second body of Changyue also grew stronger. I'm not sure if the fruit can be eaten, so I caught a few small fish and came back. Then, I picked a leaf from the water grass, crushed it, and fed them separately. I dare not pick too many for a long month, fearing that it will affect the ripening of the fruit. After eating the leaves, the little fish not only did not have any problems, but also seemed to become more lively, which relieved Changyue. Although eating leaves doesn't necessarily guarantee that the fruit is not poisonous, at least it's more reassuring. After careful consideration for a long time, I finally decided to eat that fruit. Strive to turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. Although the second body has become stronger, in the end, it is just an ordinary water snake. If we don't have some adventures, we don't know how long we can live in the end. In order to continue benefiting from his own essence in the future, Changyue decided to fight for it. Animal instincts may not always be a bad thing. After a few months, the fruit ripens. After the fruit truly matured, Changyue's second body decisively swallowed it in one gulp. With a surge of energy emerging in her body, Changyue soon lost consciousness in a daze. Changyue had a dream, seemingly dreaming of a silver moon hanging high in the sky. Under the silver plate-like moon, there was a mountain-like python hovering on the top of a high mountain. The python looked up at the moon, constantly pouring silver moonlight down, bathing in it. The snake's body seemed to be covered in a thin layer of silver veil, giving it a sense of divinity. After waking up for a long time, she found that she had returned to her true self. In the following period of time, Long Yu suddenly realized that she could no longer switch her consciousness to the second body, which made her extremely anxious. However, she couldn't think of a solution and could only act in a hurry. However, Changyue did not give up. After all, the second body is crucial, which is related to her own future health. So she tried to communicate with the second person every night, but failed every time. This made Changyue a little regretful for hastily eating that fruit. If it weren't for the presence of her second body on her screen of light, she would have thought that her second body was already dead. A few days ago, at the age of 14, Changyue was checking the light curtain when she suddenly noticed that the column on the upper bone had changed from nothing to lower, and the column on the second body had changed from a water snake to a xianin snake, which made her extremely happy. At that time, Changyue, who was enjoying the cool in the yard, quickly returned to her room and, using the excuse of taking a nap, instructed Sanji and Grandma Feng not to disturb her. Then, she began to try to switch consciousness to the second body. She succeeded this time. Before Long Moon, it was impossible to switch consciousness because the second body was undergoing transformation and could not support Long Moon's consciousness descent. Looking back at the lost and regained second body, Changyue discovered that although it had not eaten for a long time, its body had grown by 5 meters and its appearance had undergone a huge change. The scales on his entire body have completely turned silver, making him look much more beautiful than the gray water snake before. His body has also become more slender, making him look like a work of art. The most important thing is that Long Moon is sensitive to the presence of a special energy in its body, and at the same time, its mind naturally appears with methods to control the movement and use of this energy. This energy starts from its 7-inch position, which is the position of the heart, travels throughout the body and returns to the heart. Each flow of energy can make the body feel warm for a long time. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Guessing and Fighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Guessing and Fighting. The new body made Changyue feel very novel, as it played with its body back and forth in the cave, trying to master the new body more proficiently. I don't know how long it took, but Changyue suddenly felt like something was attracting her outside, so she couldn't help but swim out of the cave until it floated out of the sea. At this moment, it is already dark outside, and a crescent moon quietly appears over the sea at some point. What attracts the long moon is the crescent moon above its head. Changyue looked up at the crescent moon, unconsciously beginning to activate a special energy within her body. Immediately, a moonlight was pulled and projected onto it, casting a crystal clear reflection of its silver scales, making it look very, very beautiful. Changyue instinctively refines and absorbs the power of the moonlight. As time passed, Changyue clearly felt that as it continuously refined the moonlight, the special energy in its body was gradually increasing. Inviting the art of moonlight blossom. This is a unique cultivation method unique to the Xianin snake, a strange and exotic beast. Until the moon disappeared outside, Changyue was forced to withdraw from her cultivation state. Then, she suddenly realized that the situation was not good, and quickly swam back to the cave to let her consciousness return to its original form. When Changyue opened her eyes, she indeed heard bursts of crying in her ears, which belonged to Changyue and Grandma Feng. She thought to herself, not good. As soon as Changyue saw Changyue waking up, she quickly pushed aside the doctor beside her and tearfully pulled her, saying, "Miss, you finally woke up. You scared me to death." The consciousness of the long moon is attached to the second body, and due to being addicted to cultivation and forgetting time, the body has been in a state of slumber. She used to excuse herself for taking a nap for too long, which naturally made Changyue and Grandma Feng realize something was wrong. She thought that Changyue was sick again, so she quickly invited a doctor. Changyue has been weak and sickly since childhood. It is normal for her to take medicine and seek a doctor when she is sick. However, her health has improved recently and she has not sought a doctor for a while. It seems that she has fainted, which has frightened Changyue and Grandma Feng. But after the doctor arrived, he found that although Changyue's body was weak, his pulse was normal, not like he was sick, but rather like he was asleep. It is also a fact that a long month cannot wake up, and if one falls asleep, it should not be like this. For a moment, the doctor was confused and even began to doubt his medical skills. Unable to find the cause, the doctor had to grit his teeth and continue diagnosis and treatment. Fortunately, he has been awake for a long time now. Changyue sat up and comforted Changyue, saying, "All right, stop crying. I'm fine, I just suddenly felt a little tired. I just slept a little longer." Changyue cried and said, "Why did you sleep a little longer? You've been sleeping for most of the day, and you said it's okay." Grandma Feng on the side also urged the doctor, "Hurry up and show it to my young lady again." The doctor sighed helplessly and had to accept his fate and go forward to check his pulse. Changyue obediently handed her hand to the doctor, and then continued to comfort Changyue and Grandma Feng, saying, "I'm really fine. Don't worry, after sleeping, I feel like I've never felt better before." The doctor finished his pulse and said, "Miss Changyue's body is indeed fine." Upon hearing this, Changyue quickly said, "Look, I'll just say it. Don't make a fuss." "Really?" Grandma Feng looked at the doctor with a skeptical expression on her face, but the young lady's expression did look good. Grandma Feng is a martial artist with a good martial arts cultivation. When she glared, her aura immediately rose, but ordinary doctors suddenly felt their scalp tingling. "Really, really?" The doctor quickly assured, "This is not the first time I have treated Miss Changyue. Is there any problem that I can't see?" "That's true. Upon hearing this, Grandma Feng let the doctor go and respectfully sent him out. The old doctor is the official physician of the Li family. This is not the first time he has dealt with Grandma Feng. He knows that Miss Changyue is the lifeblood of Grandma Feng and does not argue with her. He left Changyue's yard directly. The doctor breathed a sigh of relief as he walked for a long month. I made a mistake this time, please be careful next time. She doesn't intend to tell anyone about her second body, including Grandma Feng and Sanji. Fortunately, she now has a bone and can start practicing. In the future, using cultivation as an excuse will not easily lead to problems. After all, forgetting time during cultivation is a normal thing. After Grandma Feng returned from seeing off the doctor, there was also a person with her, Mrs. Wang, who was next to the eldest lady. I have seen Miss Seven. Mrs. Wang bowed expressionlessly to Changyue after entering the door. Madam heard that Miss Seven was sick, so she specifically asked the old servant to come and see if there was anything I didn't need help with. Before Changyue, every time she fell ill, Madam would send someone over to take a look, which is why it is rare for an outsider to come here. Changyue smiled and said to Wang's mother, Madam Lao is worried. I'm fine, it's just that I slept a bit too long. Sanji and Grandma Feng are just making a fuss. That's good, since it's okay, then the old servant won't disturb Miss Seven's rest. Please pay more attention to your health. After saying that, Mrs. Wang left directly. In the next few days, Changyue planned to start practicing martial arts while regularly attaching her second body every day and using the moonlight to cultivate at night. Because she was worried that Sanji and Grandma Feng might find something wrong, Changyue would control her time every time she possessed her second body. Finally today, Changyue has successfully prepared everything and opened her pulse, officially embarking on the path of martial arts cultivation. Being able to cultivate, Changyue once again possessed the second body, feeling refreshed and refreshed. She possessed her second body tonight to verify a hypothesis. Practicing martial arts involves the cultivation of qi and blood. Martial artists increase their martial arts cultivation by converting their own qi and blood into true qi. Therefore, martial artists not only eat a lot but also often use medicine to assist in their cultivation. But there is a special connection between Changyue and the second body, which is that a portion of the qi and blood replenished by Xianin's snake through eating will be transmitted to Changyue's body. Does that mean that Changyue can use this portion of qi and blood to cultivate after that? When the second body was just an ordinary water snake in the past, the amount of qi and blood that could be obtained and transformed was limited, and the amount transmitted to the body of Long Moon was even more limited. It was already difficult to improve Long Moon's body. But now the second body is a rare exotic beast, and the situation will be greatly different, not only in terms of hunting ability but also in terms of the efficiency of converting qi and blood. There are exotic beasts in this world, but they are rare and precious, rarely appearing in front of people. Apart from the classics in the Li family's library, there has been no news related to exotic beasts for such a long time. Oh, by the way. Maybe Chaoyun's sect has it. This world is not ruled by individual countries like in the previous life of Changyue, but by various forces of all sizes, including sects, aristocratic families, and gangs. Of course, there are also countries, but this country is just another term for power, essentially a type of existence similar to aristocratic families. Villages, towns, and cities are all part of the ancestral family. For example, Mingyue City is a city under the rule of Chaoyun Zongji. Large forces rule and occupy rich territories, while small forces occupy barren and impoverished areas. Among the 13 states in the world, Minzhou, where Mingyue City is located, is jointly governed by 3 major forces: Chaoyun sect, Wuya Haigu, and Luyun sect. The Li family is a powerful family in Mingyue City, but fundamentally it is only a subordinate force of Chaoyun sect. Although the relationship between the two sides is not very close, if Chaoyunzong wants to use the Li family cannot refuse. So Chaoyun sect is a first-class powerful force, perhaps they know where there are exotic beasts. The place where Changyue's second body is located should be a special sea area, because besides the Xianin snake that has just transformed into a monster, the big fish that ate the snake mother and the big octopus that tore up the big fish are undoubtedly also monsters. It's definitely not easy for 3 exotic beasts to appear in one place at once. Unfortunately, Changyue himself is not sure where his second body is located in the sea. Sometimes even for a long time, I can't help but wonder if my second body may not be in the same world as my own body. Shouldn't. Probably not. Forget it, let's not think too much. Long Yu stretched out her body and quickly swam out of the cave, starting today's hunting. After leaving the cave, he wandered on his territory for a long time, but unfortunately, after searching for half a day, he only caught a few ordinary sea fish, which could provide limited qi and blood, making it dispensable for today's fish. After such a long exploration, Changyue is currently quite familiar with her territory and knows that it is not easy to hunt for food with sufficient qi and blood. The fish and shrimp that used to easily satisfy her appetite are now despised by her. As for foraging outside this sea area, it dares not, don't blame it for being cowardly. If it encounters that big octopus, wouldn't it be a dead end? Even if it transforms into a monster, Changyue is not confident in fighting against the big octopus. The big fish is also a strange beast, but in the end, it was easily torn apart by the big octopus. Fortunately, the big octopus was an outsider and left immediately after eating it, but no one can guarantee that it will not appear nearby. Hey! If only a strange beast could fall directly from the sky and feed me. Changyue couldn't help but start daydreaming. However, at this moment, with a thud, an unknown object suddenly fell into the sea. Upon closer inspection, Long Yu discovered that it was a large bird of unknown species. From the energy waves emitted by the big bird, there is no doubt that it is a strange beast, and ordinary creatures do not have such obvious energy fluctuations. The body moves faster than the brain thinks, and the long moon turns into a lightning bolt and rushes towards it, directly wrapping its body around the big bird and dragging it towards the direction where the cave is located. This is a gift from heaven, I can't refuse it. The big bird had not completely died yet and struggled twice in the water, but soon there was no movement again. After successfully dragging the big bird into the cave, Changyue was excitedly preparing to eat when she suddenly realized something was wrong. This is good, why did a bird suddenly fall from the sky? Something must be happening on the sea, why not? Go and take a look. Go take a look. Temporarily storing the dead bird in the cave, Long Yu cautiously swam towards the sea. Its head had just emerged from the water, and all it could hear was the hissing of birds above its head, each one louder than the other, sharp and piercing. Long Yu fixed her gaze and saw 2 groups of seabirds fighting in the sky, one of which was just the same species as the one that had just fallen into the water. There must be hundreds of them, right? When did Changyue see such a grand scene? She was so scared that she quickly withdrew her head into the water. After a while, it was confirmed that neither of the birds on either side had discovered it. Long Yu couldn't help but poke her head out of the water to check the situation, but this time she found a reef to cover it up. The battle between 2 groups of birds in the sky became increasingly fierce, with an unstoppable posture, scattered feathers and shattered flesh. And Changyue was surprised to find that there were several creatures at the level of exotic beasts in both ethnic groups, and the dazzling pressure made it feel a bit suffocated. However, this made Changyue even more curious about the place where her second body was located. It was a rare exotic beast that appeared one after another in the outside world. However, exploring this issue now is clearly not the right time. After thinking for a while, Changyue decided to stay and quietly pick up the leeks, seeking wealth and prosperity amidst danger. Otherwise, relying on the 3 melons and 2 dates in its own territory, the road to strength would be too far away. Taking advantage of the 2 groups of birds above not paying attention to the water, Longyue kept dragging the seabirds that had fallen into the sea into his cave. In this way, back and forth, he surprisingly found the bodies of more than 10 seabirds, all still fresh. Unfortunately, apart from the one at the beginning, there was no second exotic seabird that fell into the water. As time passed, the members of both sides began to gradually exhaust themselves, and the battle gradually subsided. The respective leaders even stopped fighting and entered a state of confrontation. At this moment, a sea bird at the level of a monster suddenly lowered its head, its gaze aligned with that of Changyue. Changyue was startled and immediately withdrew its head into the water, without intending to conflict with the other party. But at that moment, the seabird actually plunged directly from high altitude, like a sharp arrow, plunging into the water with a splash, and its sharp beak fiercely pecked at the 7 inches of the long moon. At this moment, Changyue's body was completely submerged in the water, and it flexibly twisted its body, narrowly avoiding the fatal blow. But as a seabird, the other party also had a certain ability to move in the water, and surprisingly continued to pounce towards Changyue without mercy. Changyue couldn't dodge and was directly grabbed by the other party's sharp claws on the back. The intense pain triggered the hidden ferocity of Long Moon's second body. It quickly flipped over and wrapped its slender body tightly around the seabird, while opening its mouth to bite its neck fiercely. The seabird's head tilted and dodged Long Moon's attack, starting to vigorously flap its wings. The claws that held onto Long Moon's body tightened, and its nails fiercely penetrated Long Moon's flesh, attempting to break free from her constraints. But Changyue not only did not relax, but also endured the excruciating pain and wrapped the snake's body around the seabird's body again. This seabird is not small in size, so after metamorphosis, its Long Moon body becomes even more slender, otherwise it wouldn't be able to entangle. The flexibility of seabirds in the water is obviously not as good as that of Longyue, who has been living in the water for a long time. In the process of coming and going, Longyue finally found the right time and fiercely bit her neck. Hot blood flowed down Long Moon's throat into its stomach, then turned into a warm current that flowed through its entire body. Changyue couldn't help but sigh in her heart. It's truly the blood of a strange beast, and the effect is simply amazing. In an instant, Changyue felt that the pain on her body had eased a lot. With the massive loss of blood, the body temperature of seabirds gradually disappears and their struggles begin to slow down. I don't know how long it took, but the seabird completely lost its vitality. Long Moon didn't dare to delay much and quickly dragged its body towards the cave. After returning to the cave, Changyue threw the body of the seabird aside, completely relaxing her mind. At the same time, the pain that had been subconsciously ignored during the battle surged out like a mountain-roaring tsunami, making it unable to resist stretching out the snake's letter and gasping for breath. Too much pain. After calming down, Changyue began to look at the corpses of the dozen seabirds in the cave, feeling overjoyed. These foods were of much higher quality than the small fish and shrimp in its field, especially the 2 genuine exotic beasts among them. The blood and flesh of the exotic beast are greatly replenished. I don't know what changes its body will undergo after eating these foods. Pressing down the ecstasy in his heart, Longyue eagerly swallowed the seabirds one by one into his stomach. Snakes have a unique body structure that allows them to directly swallow large amounts of food and slowly digest it, so Longyue decided to eat them all while their bodies were still fresh. After swallowing all the seabirds, Changyue glanced at her chubby waist, then curled up and hid in the deepest part of the cave, slowly closing her eyes. The next second, its consciousness returns to its original form. At the moment when consciousness returned to its original form, Changyue noticed something unusual in her body. Her meridians were filled with a large amount of hot qi and blood, like a surging river. Due to the accumulation of too much qi and blood in the meridians, the pale skin of Changyue was swollen and turned red, as if it would burst at any moment. She gained much more qi and blood this time than before. What surprised Longyue even more was that when her consciousness was attached to her second body, her body automatically began to operate the jade bone technique for cultivation, constantly refining the qi and blood transmitted from her second body into a continuous stream of true qi. It's just that her bones are too poor and her refining efficiency is too low, to the extent that there is still a large amount of qi and blood accumulated in her meridians to this day. Without much time to think, Changyue quickly closed her eyes and took the initiative to activate the jade bone technique, transforming the remaining qi and blood into true qi and storing it in the elixir field. Until a hint of fish belly white appeared on the horizon, Longyue finally transformed all the stored qi and blood in the meridians into true qi. Feeling the true energy filling the dantian, Changyue couldn't help but smile. As she guessed, the qi and blood transmitted from the second body can indeed be used for cultivation. The originally stored qi and blood in the human body are limited, and excessive conversion during cultivation can damage the body. Therefore, in general, martial artists need to supplement their qi and blood through dietary and medicinal supplements for cultivation. But whether it's dietary supplements or medicinal supplements, they both require a lot of resources and money, which are not available for a long time. Now the qi and blood transmitted from the second body can be used for cultivation, which means that in terms of money expenditure, Longyue is much less than others, which is simply too important for Longyue. Full of joy, Changyue flipped over and jumped off the bed, agile and unpretentious, finally completely distancing herself from her previous frailty and illness. Opening the golden finger, Changyue noticed that the information on it had changed. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Lower and lower level skill. Jade bone technique, 6% of first sight path, martial arts realm. Kaimai realm 2 second body. Xianin snake. One night of cultivation unexpectedly allowed Changyue to ascend directly from the first level of the Kaimai realm to the second level, which was completely different from the cultivation speed that lower level bones should have. The qi and blood provided by the second body are too abundant. The beginning of martial arts cultivation, opening meridian realm, is the process of accumulating qi and blood, refining true qi, and gradually connecting the 12 meridians. The better the root bone, the higher the efficiency of refining qi and blood, which naturally represents a faster cultivation speed. But even the best martial artists with good roots and bones will waste a certain amount of qi and blood when refining it, which means that the efficiency of converting qi and blood into true qi is not 100%. But the qi and blood transmitted from the second body to Changyue are very unique, almost 100% compatible with Changyue's body, and the efficiency of refining is also very close to 100%. Therefore, even if Changyue's root bone is poor, her cultivation speed is still incredibly fast. At this moment, Changyue could hardly wait to kneel down and kowtow 3 times to the traversing god. The golden finger is so awesome. Continuing to look at the golden finger, Changyue noticed that in addition to improving her realm, her proficiency in the jade bone technique had also increased, from a 1% beginner's level to a 6% beginner's level. Does higher proficiency mean higher cultivation speed? Changyue is not very certain, so I have decided to slowly verify it during my future cultivation. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Instant Tears of Blood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Instantly crying blood. In the next few days, Changyue didn't go anywhere and kept shrinking in her small courtyard to practice, cultivate and cultivate. Because the feeling of cultivation is really wonderful. Grandma Feng also practices the jade bone technique, so when Changyue encounters problems, she will directly seek advice from Grandma Feng. Grandma Feng is completely selfless and knows everything about Changyue. She talks endlessly and even wishes to directly put her cultivation experience group into Changyue's mind, so that she can immediately master it. Because the second body was constantly digesting and swallowing the seabird while sleeping, Changyue's body stored a large amount of qi and blood every day. Therefore, her cultivation speed could be described as 1,000 miles per day, which made Grandma Feng extremely happy and kept nagging that her young lady was a genius. Grandma Feng has now asserted that Changyue must be a top-notch bone. Previously, the Li family's elder did not detect it, but it must be because they were blind and lacked skills. Long Yu didn't explain, let Grandma Feng misunderstand like this, otherwise her cultivation speed really can't be explained. Although the maid Changyue is also a martial artist, she doesn't pay much attention to her cultivation. Now that she sees her own young lady practicing so hard, she is afraid that she won't be herself in the future and has started to work hard to cultivate. But Changyue's qualifications are not good, and her cultivation speed is really slow. Grandma Feng used to be the maid of Changyue's birth mother, not the Li family who were born and raised here. She was picked up by Changyue's mother outside when the Su family was still alive. Later, the Su family unexpectedly discovered that her martial arts skills were very good, so they let her practice martial arts with their master. But Changyue is different, she is the biological son of the Li family. According to tradition, the young masters and ladies of the Li family will be assigned to maids or servants with martial arts qualifications from a young age to take care of and protect them, usually 1 to 3 in number. Some of these maids and servants are domestic children, while others are bought from outside. Before being assigned to young masters and ladies, the government will conduct a unified root and bone test, teach martial arts knowledge to the maids and servants, then evaluate their levels, and finally distribute suitable cultivation techniques for them. After they have basically learned how to cultivate, they will be assigned to serve the young masters and ladies. Other young masters and ladies are either favored or highly skilled in martial arts, so naturally they are assigned servants with good qualifications. However, Changyue is just a pitiful little girl that no one pays attention to, and the corresponding allocation can only be Changyue, a lowly servant with poor qualifications. Although Changyue is the son of the Li family, her parents passed away early and there are no other relatives, so there is no one to plan for her. It is not surprising that she will be assigned to Changyue here. However, Changyue had no objection to being assigned to the side of the hopeless master, Changyue. Although Changyue couldn't practice before, she was kind to others and wouldn't scold or hit her normally. Therefore, in Changyue's heart, Changyue was the best master. Now that Changyue is able to cultivate, and his cultivation talent seems to be very high, of course, Changyue will feel a sense of crisis. 3 months have passed in the blink of an eye, and the long month of cultivation is proceeding in an orderly manner. At the same time, she has finally figured out some secrets about the changes in proficiency of the jade bone technique. The improvement of proficiency can indeed increase the cultivation speed of a long month, but its improvement is not something that can be easily achieved by practicing for a long month. Its root lies in jade. Although Grandma Feng told Changyue that jade stones are helpful for practicing the jade bone technique, she herself has not used jade stones to practice because all the money she has saved is used to repair Changyue's body. Grandma Feng herself has no experience, so she naturally cannot explain the key points in detail. Changyue also discovered a partial correlation between them through continuous experiments over the past few months. On the contrary, all those jade stones have been completely consumed. Now the information on Long Moon's golden finger has changed again. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Lower and lower level cultivation method. Jade bone technique, 97% of beginner's path, martial arts realm. Kaimai realm 7 second body. Xianin snake. With the improvement of proficiency in the jade bone technique, the cultivation speed for the past 3 months naturally became faster and faster, and the martial arts realm naturally rose to the 7th level. There is no bottleneck in the early stage of martial arts cultivation, and the root bone determines the speed of cultivation. Although Changyue's root bone is not good, she has a high efficiency in converting qi and blood, and does not lack qi and blood supply, so her cultivation speed is not inferior to those warriors who have superior root bones. In theory, the current cultivation speed of Changyue is almost comparable to that of her elder sister who was admitted to Chaoyan sect. At the end of the day of cultivation, Changyue thought to herself, "There is no more jade left for practicing the jade bone technique. It seems that she still needs to buy some more. Unfortunately, she has run out of money. In addition to practicing the jade bone technique on her own, Mingyue also needs jade and stones, as does Feng Granny. Previously, Granny Feng had been frugal in order to help her replenish her health, but now her body is fine and she can no longer continue to be so frugal. The matter of making money needs to be put on the agenda now. As for how to make money, Changyue currently has no clue. Besides the issue of jade, Changyue feels that she still needs to learn one or two martial arts skills. In martial arts practice, martial arts techniques are used to elevate one's realm, while martial arts techniques are a method of using true qi either to defend against enemies or to treat illnesses and injuries. There are various types of techniques available. Opening the door and walking out of the room, Changyue saw Sangyi sweeping the floor in the yard. She waved to her and said, "Sangyi, come with me to the library." Although Changyue couldn't practice before, her family didn't prohibit her from entering the library, so she often went there to pass the time. The library houses various martial arts, techniques, and other miscellaneous books collected by the Li family, so Changyue is definitely looking for martial arts that can be practiced there. Of course, the profound and superior martial arts and techniques of the Li family will not be included in the library. They are all hidden in more secret places. Except with the permission of the family head and elders, most children are not qualified to read them. Upon hearing this, Sangyi quickly put down her broom and said, "Hey, miss." Grandma Feng heard the voice of Changyue and walked out of the room in 3 or 2 steps, instructing Sangyi, "Take good care of Mississippi." Sangyi replied, "Don't worry." So Changyue took mulberry leaves out of the yard and walked straight towards the direction where the library was located. On the way to the library, Changyue and Sangyi met many servants who simply bowed and said hello to Changyue. They didn't say much else. Changyue's master and servant had long been accustomed to this kind of indifference. The person in charge of the library is a senior member of the Li family, who has a very long history. His hair and beard are already snow-white, but his skin still looks smooth like a newborn baby, giving people a sense of mystery. When Changyue stepped into the door, the other person was lying cross-legged on the lounge chair at the door, holding a book and reading it with concentration, as if they had not noticed Changyue's arrival. "Long elder." Changyue greeted the elder as usual, and without waiting for any response from the other person, she went straight into the library. This elder is usually like this. He looks indifferent to anyone who greets him, and Changyue doesn't even know his name. He only listens to everyone calling him Elder Long. After entering the library, Changyue casually glanced around and determined the area where the martial arts were located, then walked over with Sangyi. Many people come to the library on weekdays, and today is no exception. For a long time, the library used to go to the area where miscellaneous notes were stored. Today, when I saw her coming to the martial arts section, everyone couldn't help but cast strange glances, curious about what she, an ordinary person who couldn't practice, was doing in the martial arts section. But it's strange that everyone is curious, and no one said much. After all, this matter has nothing to do with them. No matter how they say it, they are also the daughter of the head of the family. Even if they cannot practice, it is not their turn to talk nonsense to a group of ordinary children. They are not a big shot in the Li family and can ignore the authority of the head of the family. Mingyue walked to the bookshelf as if there was no one around, and began to search for martial arts one by one. The Li family has collected a considerable number and types of martial arts, but most of the ones placed here are not mainstream, so it may take some effort to find the martial arts that suit oneself for a long time. Diamond Palm, Yin-Yang Fingers, Fuhu Fist. Each name is very loud, but in fact, they are all ordinary goods. Every time Changyue picked up a martial arts book, she would roughly browse through the content to determine if it was suitable for her. She flipped through dozens of books in a row, but none of them caught her eye. It's not that she's picky, it's just that there are too many common goods here. Li Changyue. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind Changyue. She turned around and saw that it was Li Changyun. Fifth sister. Changyue greeted Li Changyun, but her attitude was not enthusiastic, and the two were not familiar at first. Li Changyun frowned and asked, "What are you doing here? You can't practice." Changyue answered expressionlessly, "Just take a look and consider it as a gain in knowledge." She had no intention of revealing what she could cultivate for the time being. Firstly, the jade bone technique she cultivates cannot be casually revealed, otherwise it is unlikely to cause any disputes. After all, this is a top-notch technique that can change a person's cultivation routes. Secondly, she is just an inferior bone, which allows the elders of the family to easily touch it, but her cultivation speed is not possessed by inferior bones. Once others notice the difference, it is inevitable that it will involve the golden finger. It's better to be careful. With the support of a second body, Changyue's demand for resources is much smaller than other warriors, and it is not necessary to have the support of the family. The only problem is probably the jade used to cultivate the jade bone technique, but if you want to solve this problem separately, that's it. Upon hearing Changyue's answer, Li Changyun pursed his lips and said with a disdainful expression, "Although you cannot practice, you do need to gain more knowledge. Otherwise, as a young lady of our prestigious Li family, you would not understand anything about martial arts cultivation. It would be embarrassing to hear such rumors. Miss Wu, you." Seeing that Li Changyun looked down on her own young lady, Changyue immediately stopped and wanted to stand out for her, but was stopped by Changyue in time. She is a servant, offending the young lady at home is not a good thing. Li Changyun didn't pay much attention to Changye's angry expression. After snorting coldly, he casually threw the book in his hand onto the bookshelf, proudly holding his head high and leaving in anger. Changyue turned her gaze to the book that Li Changyun had left behind, and saw the two big characters, "Instant Body," written on the cover. The mulberry leaf beside her wanted to complain a few words about Li Changyun, but when she saw her own young lady picking up a book and looking intently, she wisely closed her mouth. After gaining a rough understanding of the content of "Instant Body," Changyue discovered that it was actually a body technique and martial arts skill. It is said that when practiced to a high level, it can even move in the void, which is very impressive. I don't know if it's possible to move for a long month in the void, but I guess it's probably bragging. But this martial arts book looks really impressive, and at first glance, it's clear that it's different from the general merchandise she browsed before. It's up to you. Changyue, hold it for me. After handing over Changyue's "Instant Body" to Changyue, he continued to search on the bookshelf. Having acquired a good body technique and martial arts skills, she plans to find another attack-type martial arts skill. However, relying solely on running is not a solution. Changyue silently followed behind her own young lady, who was touching left and right on the bookshelf, but couldn't find the suitable martial arts skills. She couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Mississippi. Changyue was about to say something, but she didn't pay attention and bumped into the nearby bookshelf, knocking over a stack of books on the ground. "Oh!" Changyue exclaimed in surprise and quickly squatted down to pick up the book. "Why are you so careless?" Changyue squatted down helplessly to help pick up the mulberry leaves together. While tidying up the books, Changyue suddenly noticed a dusty book at the bottom of the bookshelf, curling up a corner, and casually pulled it out. "Weeping Blood Knife." I saw 3 big characters clearly written on the book cover. After casually flipping through it, Changyue was surprised to find that it seemed to be a clever knife technique. However, this knife technique is not complete, only the first 3 moves. But just these 3 moves firmly caught Long Yu's gaze. This knife technique is too delicate and seems unfriendly to beginners. Long months ago, I had no experience with swordsmanship, so practicing it recklessly may not be successful. Just give up directly like this, and I can't bear to part with it for a long time. After careful consideration, Changyue still carried the bloody sword into her arms. Although this knife technique is incomplete, it is sufficient for her at present. After putting the scattered books back in their original place, Changyue went to find a book called Basic Knife Technique, intending to first lay the foundation of the knife technique and then try practicing Weeping Blood Knife. The basic martial arts skills of Basic Knife Technique are prominently displayed in the library, and Changyue can easily find them. After selecting the martial arts skills, Changyue took Sanji to the copying area and transcribed the 3 martial arts books, returning them to their original positions. The martial arts skills in the library were not meant to be taken out directly, so the children of the Li family had to copy copies and then leave with copies if they wanted to learn. When Changyue left with 3 books of martial arts, Elder Long was still lying on the ground at the door with the same movements as when she came. The book in his hand showed no signs of turning. Returning to the yard, Changyue eagerly opened the Basic Knife Technique and delved into it meticulously. She kept gesturing according to the knife spectrum, and when the research area was almost complete, she turned to the open space in the yard and practiced it over and over again. Because she didn't have a knife in her hand, she temporarily replaced it with her hand. Practicing basic swordsmanship is very boring, with repetitive movements such as teasing, stabbing, cutting, blocking, breaking, chopping, wiping, tying, and wrapping. But the subtle changes between actions need to be carefully experienced and pondered, and Changyue is not tired of it. In the following period, Changyue once again lived a peaceful life without leaving home. Her daily routine was very regular, except for eating, sleeping, and using the bathroom. She practiced martial arts during the day and the jade bone technique at night. Busy time always flies by quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 2 months have passed. Long months of practicing basic saber technique and instant body have achieved some success. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Lower and lower level cultivation method. Jade bone technique, 97% of beginner's path, martial arts. Basic knife technique, 84% of first sight path, instant body, 82% of first sight path, martial arts realm. Opening meridian realm 9-second body. Xianin snake. Because the jade has been used up, there has been no change in the proficiency of the jade bone technique in the past 2 months. But under long months of diligent learning and hard practice, the proficiency of the 2 martial arts skills has increased rapidly. Moreover, Changyue also found that an increase in martial arts proficiency does not require additional conditions, as long as she is willing to work hard. As for Weeping Blood Knife, Changyue is still in the research stage and has not started practicing yet. She plans to wait until she has achieved some basic knife techniques before starting learning. Grinding a knife won't delay the woodcutter. In terms of martial arts realm, I have put more effort into my martial arts skills in the past 2 months, so I haven't improved as quickly as before, only from the 7th level to the 9th level. After finishing a day of cultivation, Changyue was about to rest when she saw Grandma Feng walking over happily. "Miss, look what I've brought you." Grandma Feng handed the thing in her hand to Changyue, which was a simple and slender wooden knife. Changyue's eyes lit up, and when she took the wooden knife, her palm sank. This is clearly a wooden cutting tool, but it gives people a sense of heaviness and sharpness that only metal products have. Seeing that Changyue liked it, Grandma Feng smiled and said, "This is carved from iron wood. Although it may not be considered a serious weapon, it is more than enough for practicing swordsmanship." "Thank you, Mother.in.law. I really like it," Changyue said with a touch on her face as she gently rubbed the blade with her hands. "I have a certain understanding of the special type of wood, ironwood, which has a hard texture that even ordinary metal knives cannot collide with. Importantly, Mingyue does not produce iron wood, so even in the wealthy Li family, this thing can be considered rare to see." Grandma Feng said with a kind expression, "Thank you for what I did. This was originally something left by your mother, but now it's in your hands again. I believe the spirit of the lady in heaven will also be happy." This iron wooden knife has been kept in the warehouse since Su Shuyuan's death, and it has been so long that Grandma Feng almost forgot its existence. In the past, Grandma Feng never imagined that Changyue would learn swordsmanship. It wasn't until recently that she suddenly remembered something like this, and it took her several days to find it in the corner of the warehouse. Fortunately, the ironwood material is special, and it has not decayed after so long. Changyue waved the iron and wood knife casually twice, feeling very satisfied. There still needs to be a knife, it feels different. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Selling drugs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Selling drugs. After the long-month trial was over, Grandma Feng said again, "Miss, there's something I need you to decide on." Changyue asked in confusion, "What's going on?" So Grandma Feng recounted the news of the butler who had just arrived by the eldest lady's side. Changyue used to be weak and sickly, so the Li family would allocate a fixed amount of money every month to treat her illness and buy medicine. However, now that Changyue's body is fine, there is no need to buy medicine. However, Changyue has no intention of letting her family know the true condition of her body at the moment, so the eldest lady will definitely continue to deliver medicine here. The medicine was delivered but not needed, so it was wasted. This made Grandma Feng both headache and heartache. The medicine sent by the lady a few months ago is still piling up in the warehouse and falling into dust. Changyue lowered her head and pondered for a moment, saying, "Why don't you just ask Madam to convert the medicine into money and give it to us? Let's just say that we can handle the buying of medicine ourselves in the future. Coincidentally, she is currently short of money." Grandma Feng said awkwardly, "That's a solution. You just need to report it to Madam." "Okay, I'll go talk to you later." After discussing the outcome, Changyue summoned Changyue and took her to the courtyard of the eldest lady. The courtyard where Changyue lives is located in a remote area, which is a bit far from the main courtyard where Madam lives. If you want to go there, you almost have to cross half of the Li mansion. As I was walking through the garden, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the grass and collided directly with Changyue. In order to fit her frail and sickly persona, Changyue pretended to stumble and took several steps back, until Changyue grabbed her and she barely stood firm. At the same time, the dark figure across from him also slammed his butt and squatted heavily. "Oh, who is it? Didn't you have eyes?" Changyue suddenly became unhappy and said, "Even though you bumped into my young lady, how could you still have reason?" Upon closer inspection, Changyue realized that the person who had bumped into her was a chubby young man who looked 7 or 8 years old, dressed in silk and satin, exuding a luxurious aura. Little fatty Li Changqian, the 9th young master of the Li family and the 9th younger brother of Changyue, is 8 years old and has not yet started practicing since it is not time to measure his roots and bones. He usually studies in the Li family and doesn't know how he came here today. The chubby little one nimbly got up from the ground, his eyes rolling incessantly. "Are you the 7th sister?" Little fatty is young, and it is difficult to meet Changyue on a regular basis, so he can only barely recognize Changyue's identity. Cough. "It's me. 9th brother." Changyue covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief and smiled softly at the chubby little one, as if a small white flower swaying in the wind. The technique of jade bone technique is quite unique. People who practice it tend to have snow-white skin, so even though their body has recovered for a long time, there is still no blood on their face. Coupled with her weak Lu Fufeng physique, it makes people feel that she has lived for less than 3 days at a glance. It is probably due to the function of the golden finger, and others cannot see that Changyue has already practiced, which has long been confirmed by Grandma Feng and Changyue. Seeing that he had bumped into his once-lifetime 7th sister, the chubby little one didn't pursue the fact that he had been knocked down. He casually patted the dust on his body and curiously looked at Changyue, asking, "Where are you going, Sister 7? Sister 7 is really beautiful, but her face is a bit too white." Li Changqian couldn't help but think to himself, "I have something to do with going to Madam's place." Oh. Li Changqian was about to say something when he suddenly heard someone calling him from behind. He quickly said to Changyue, "7th sister, hurry up and go, I'll leave first. After that, he quickly ran away. Changyue had only taken 2 steps when she saw her 8th sister Li Changyue running towards this side panting with 2 maids. Li Changyue, the 8th young lady of the Li family, is 1 year younger than Changyue and is now 13 years old. She is a fellow mother of the 9th Prince Li Changqian and also a young genius in martial arts cultivation, so she is highly favored in the family. Upon seeing Changyue, Li Changyue hesitated for a moment before walking over and asking, "Have you seen 7th sister? I wonder if 7th sister has seen 9th brother." Changyue nodded and said, "Jiu just passed by here, but in the blink of an eye, I don't know where he went." Upon hearing this, Li Changyue was disappointed and said, "Well, thank you very much for informing 7th sister." After that, he continued to search for Li Changqian with his maid. Although Changyue didn't know what the siblings were up to, she didn't have the desire to explore. She turned around and continued walking towards Madame's yard with Sanji. "I have seen Miss 7. As she arrived at the gate of the Grand Madame's courtyard, the little maid guarding the door immediately welcomed her. "I don't know if Miss 7 came today." The eldest lady usually does not have the habit of letting illegitimate sons and daughters come to pay respects, so young masters and ladies usually do not come here when they have nothing to do, let alone Longyue, who is mostly in seclusion as Miss 7. Changyue said, "I have some matters to discuss with Madame. Could you please inform me, sister?" "Miss 7, come in first," the little maid said with a smile on her face. "I'll go inform Madame right away." After welcoming Changyue into the yard, the little maid quickly ran into the room and soon walked out again. "Miss 7, Madam, please come in." "Thank you very much, sister," Changyue said as she entered the room with mulberry leaves. As soon as she entered the room, Changyue saw Lady Luo Fengqiao sitting cross-legged on the long couch with her eyes closed. 2 maids were shaking fans for her, and it seemed that lady was regulating her breathing. Madame Luo Fengqiao has a beautiful appearance and is a perfect beauty. Otherwise, Li Xian, an old lecherous person, would not have married her as the main wife. After all, Madame Luo's family background was not so outstanding at the time. Time seems to have not left too many marks on the face of the eldest lady. Although she is already in her 40s, she only looks like she is in her early 30s. Her hair is black and shiny, and her skin is smooth and tender. However, her face has too much sharpness, which slightly undermines her beauty. "Madam," Changyue bowed and called out softly. Luo Fengqiao slowly opened his eyes, and the sharp color on his face became even more prominent. "Changyue, I heard from Forsythia that you have something to discuss with me. What's up?" "Madam, now my body is doing well and I don't need to hire a doctor every now and then. I only need to spend some money to buy medicine on weekdays. So, in order to avoid the trouble of the butler running to my place every month, I thought it would be better to give the money for buying medicine directly to me, and I will send someone to buy medicine according to my needs to save unnecessary waste." Luo Fengqiao glanced at Changyue's pale face and didn't believe the claim that her body was already in good condition. After all, she had only fainted once recently, and she only felt that Changyue was getting older and knew she had planned for herself. She felt that after all, she couldn't practice for a long time, and it was not easy to have a good place in the future, so she thought about saving more money. Luo Fengqiao, who felt that he had guessed through Longyue's thoughts, did not intend to expose Longyue. Instead, he said, "That's okay." She gave the money, but as for any health problems that may arise after Longyue, she could not care. After all, Longyue raised the request himself. "You are a big girl now, and it's time for you to learn how to manage your money. You can manage this money yourself," said the old lady, turning her head to the steward's mother and instructing her, "Wang Mama, take Miss 7 to the accounting room to report. From now on, Miss 7 will be responsible for the money she spends on medicine in the courtyard." "Yes, madam." Wang's mother looked at Changyue and said, "Miss 7, please come with the old servant." "Thank you very much, madam." Changyue bowed to madam and turned around, taking Sanji with her, to follow Wang Mama out of the door. Having been wandering in the backyard of the Li mansion for so many years, Changyue had a good understanding of the eldest lady's temperament and had long guessed that this trip was not a big problem. Therefore, seeing the eldest lady's decisive agreement, she didn't feel any strange in her heart. Under the leadership of Wang's mother, Changyue quickly completed the report at the accounting room, and from now on, Changyue's courtyard will directly send people here every month to collect the money. After returning to her own yard, Changyue asked Grandma Feng, "Grandma, is the medicinal herb that Madam sent a few months ago still there?" Grandma Feng replied, "They are all stored in the warehouse. Let's sell them, it's just that we're running out of money recently." Grandma Feng hesitated and said, "Isn't it good to be discovered?" Changyue said nonchalantly, "We just need to be careful." Grandma Feng reluctantly agreed, "Then let's listen to Mississippi. Now that Miss can cultivate, there are many places where money is needed. It's good to sell it." Long Yu was led into the warehouse by Grandma Feng and found that there were quite a few months of accumulated medicinal herbs. "These are all top-grade medicinal herbs, piled up here to eat dust is really a waste," she said. "Indeed, they are all top-notch medicinal herbs. In recent years, Madam has treated Miss fairly." Grandma Feng couldn't help but sigh. She has lived at such an old age and knows that there are many legitimate families who treat illegitimate sons and daughters harshly. Although Madam is indifferent to Miss, she never treats her harshly. She has prepared everything Miss should have. There are a lot of medicinal herbs, I'm afraid we can't take them out at once. Let's sell them in batches, said Changyue. Listen to Miss, let's leave the matter of selling medicine to the old slave. Let me go. Changyue objected, I've been staying at home for so long, and I'll also go out and get some fresh air. Then I'll accompany Mississippi. Granny Feng still felt uneasy, even unwilling to let Sanji accompany her for a long time, feeling that Sanji's work was unreliable. Changyue shook her head and said, too many people can easily attract the attention of the government. You and Sanji should guard the yard. But Grandma Feng still felt uneasy. Changyue said firmly, Grandma, don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. Upon hearing this, Grandma Feng sighed and said, Miss has grown up. Alright, I'll listen to Mississippi. So the next day, Changyue borrowed a set of mulberry leaf clothes and disguised herself, making herself very inconspicuous. Then she climbed out of the backyard wall. Changyue's residence is one of the most remote places in the Li mansion. In contrast, the security forces here are relatively weak, so it takes almost no effort. Changyue left the Li mansion smoothly carrying a bag of medicinal herbs. After leaving the Li mansion, Changyue did not go to the pharmacy where they used to buy medicine, but instead went to another pharmacy in Mingyue City, which is further away from the Li mansion. The clerk in the shop saw Changyue carrying a big bundle and immediately guessed that she was here to sell medicine. He smiled and asked, Miss, are you here to sell medicine? This pharmacy usually purchases medicinal herbs from the herb pickers outside Mingyue City, so the staff thought that Changyue was also a herb picker. They couldn't help but think to themselves, it seems that this girl has harvested well, but she doesn't know the quality of the medicinal herbs. Changyue placed the bundle in her hand in front of the waiter and nodded, yes, selling medicine. Let me take a look first before we talk. The guy said as he unpacked the bag, feeling that something was wrong. Miss, these medicinal herbs are all processed, aren't they recently collected? Shouldn't they come from a bad source? Isn't this little maid stealing the medicinal herbs from the master's house to sell? Seeing that the waiter's expression was not right, Changyue immediately lied half-truthfully and said, the situation is like this. A while ago, my young lady fell ill, and the master bought a lot of medicinal herbs to help her recover. But to my surprise, the young lady recovered soon and naturally didn't use these herbs. So the young lady asked me to sell them. The guy suddenly realized upon hearing this and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. No wonder, I think these are all top-notch medicinal herbs. He knew how to identify medicinal herbs and saw that most of them were for nourishing the body, so he didn't doubt Long Moon's words. Of course. Our master really loves Miss, so he naturally uses top-grade medicinal materials. Changyue pretended to be proud and said, "It's precisely because they are all top-grade medicinal materials that Miss is afraid of wasting that I sent them to sell." The guy smiled and said, I understand. We have all received this medicinal herb. Successfully sold the medicinal herbs and happily left the pharmacy for a long time. Put away the money from selling medicine, and plan to wander around the city for a long time to see if you can come up with a way to make money. After all, selling medicine alone won't buy much jade. Mingyue City is a bustling city, very lively during the day, but unfortunately, after wandering for a long time, she couldn't find a way to make money. There's nothing she can do. She has no skills and no capital, so it's not easy for her to make money. I was a bit tired from strolling around, so after a long month, I casually found a tea house and planned to take a break before returning. The business of the tea house is very good. When I entered for a long time, there were already many high friends inside, and even some martial artists were present. She casually found a place by the window to sit down, then ordered a pot of tea and slowly drank it while looking out at the bustling street outside. Hey, have you heard that the flower-picking thief, Flower Moon Young Master, has come to Mingyue City? At this moment, the conversation between several warriors not far away caught Long Yu's attention. Are you talking about the Flower Moon Young Master who deceived Lu Yunzong's Purple Ling Fairy? Isn't that him? Who else is there besides him? It is said that the Luyun sect has already issued a pursuit order against him, and it is precisely because of this that he escaped to the territory of the Chaoyun sect. This flower picker is also bold. It's not good to deceive anyone, but to provoke the Purple Ling Fairy. That's the daughter of the leader of the Flowing Cloud sect. I don't know what he'll end up with if he's caught. Luyun's sect may not be able to catch him. It is said that the flower picker's escape skills are excellent, and many people have tried to catch him. Now that he has escaped to the territory of Chaoyun sect, it is not easy for Luyun's sect to catch him. As one of the three major sects in Minzhou, although the relationship between Luyun's sect and Chaoyun's sect is good on the surface, they are not actually harmonious in private. This can be said to be a secret that everyone knows in the martial arts world of Minzhou. When it comes to the enmity between two sects, it is necessary to mention their origins. Although Minzhou today is jointly governed by three major sections: Luyun sect, Chaoyun sect, and Tianya Hage, hundreds of years ago, Minzhou only had one super major sect, which is Yunxia sect. Unfortunately, later on, for some unknown reason, the Yunxia sect experienced internal turmoil, causing the vast sect to fall apart and the remaining disciples to split into two factions, eventually evolving into the present-day Chaoyun sect and Luyun sect. The two sects have each claimed to be the orthodox of the Yunxia sect for hundreds of years, and there have been conflicts in private, so their relationship is not good. The Flower Moon Young Master, who has been ordered by the Flowing Cloud sect to pursue him, has fled to the territory of the Chaoyun sect. The Flowing Cloud sect inevitably needs the cooperation of the Chaoyun sect, but Chaoyun sect would not listen to the Flowing Cloud sect so much. It is inevitable that they will act against each other. The Luyun sect has also spoken that if anyone can help them catch or kill the Flower Moon Young Master, they are willing to offer 1,000 gold coins. Really, Qianjin, Luyun sect is really a big shot. Hi, for such a big family like them, 1,000 gold coins is nothing but a drop in the bucket. If only I could catch young Master Huayu, that would be a precious treasure. If I had this treasure, I would go buy a good martial arts book, said one of the warriors with a dreamy expression on his face. His companion slapped him and woke him up, saying, "Wake up, I'm afraid you might end up with a lifeless flower. Besides, can you beat the Flower Moon Young Master?" Hee, joking. Changyue listened to gossip while drinking tea, enjoying it with relish. As time approached and she had heard enough gossip, Changyue finally got up and left the tea house, then quietly climbed over the wall and returned home. In the following days, Changyue took advantage of her spare time in cultivation to secretly sneak out of the mansion and sell the remaining medicinal herbs in batches. Every time she went to a different pharmacy, she finally saved up enough money. Today, Changyue left the Li mansion with the money from selling medicine, intending to purchase another batch of jade and stone scraps to return for cultivation. However, this time she did not choose to sneak out, but instead walked confidently through the main entrance with mulberry leaves, using the excuse of still buying medicine. Although Changyue received a script for a wealthy lady who stayed at home, occasionally making a bold appearance would appear more normal. After strolling around with mulberry leaves for a while, Changyue finally walked towards the jewelry store she had previously visited. However, before reaching their destination, the master and servant encountered trouble. The master and servant were walking on the road when they suddenly heard screams of surprise coming from ahead. Soon, Changyue saw two people running on the distant roof, one chasing and the other rushing. The onlookers were all shouting in surprise. The two of them were very fast and used lightness skills while sprinting. Obviously both of them were outstanding masters in martial arts cultivation. Before long Yu could react, the one in front had already reached the roof in front of her and Sanji, and instead fell like a giant rock bird from the sky, directly across from Long Yu. He hugged her waist and flew with her into mid-air. "Girl, do me a favor and I will definitely let you go afterwards," the person whispered softly in Changyue's ear. Mississippi. Sanji let out a cry of surprise, then used her lightness skills and chased after the thief who had caught her young lady. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Stealthy attacks to make money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Stealthy attacks to make money. The thief's speed was very fast. Long Yu was sandwiched between her waist, and the scenery in her sight quickly receded. The strong wind kept whistling in her ears, but she did not act rashly, but let the other party grab her. Before long, the two of them flew out of the city. The thief who caught Long Yu had excellent lightness skills and easily crossed the tall walls of Mingyue City. Although Sanji chased after the thief and followed him out of Mingyue City, he soon lost him. Her cultivation and lightness skills were mediocre, and she couldn't compare with thieves. She could only stomp her feet and cry in haste. At this moment, another figure darted past Sanji, almost disappearing in the blink of an eye. It was obvious that this was the person who had been chasing after the thief before. The thief who caught Long Yu kept running with his lightness skills, but soon another figure appeared behind him. "Little monk, I have no grudges with you in the past and no grudges in the recent days. Why are you chasing me so hard and not letting go? Why don't we each stop?" The thief ran and shouted behind him, but Changyue thought his voice was quite pleasant. "Amitabha Buddha, benefactor, the endless sea of suffering has come to an end." A childish voice came from behind, and Changyue fixed her gaze and widened her eyes in surprise. The one chasing behind the thief turned out to be a young monk who looked only 8 or 9 years old. Isn't it said that children usually don't start practicing until they are 10 years old? What's wrong with this little monk? Is it just looking small, but actually it's a real uncle or grandpa inside? Changyue couldn't help but have a big imagination. The little monk was wearing a gray-white monk's robe, holding a stone bowl larger than his head. His legs quickly moved and in the blink of an eye, he jumped from one tree to another. He was even more agile than an ape and was about to catch up with the thief. I don't know how long I've been running, but the thief saw that he couldn't shake off the little monk. Fortunately, he stopped and flipped over the long moon sandwiched around his waist, pinching her neck and threatening the little monk, "Little monk, if you come any closer, I can't guarantee the life of this girl." It was also during this time that Changyue finally saw the appearance of the thief who had caught him. He turned out to be a very handsome guy with a slightly feminine temperament. "Flower and moon benefactor, don't be stubborn." The little monk stopped not far away, holding a stone bowl in both hands, with a disapproving expression on his face, accompanied by his rosy lips and white teeth, almost making Changyue happy. But the little monk called this thief Huayu. Is this the flower-picking thief wanted by the Luyun sect? Long Yu couldn't help but sigh at her, nodding her back. A few days ago, she was happily eating melons, but today she met the owner of the melon field. Where did you come from, little monk? You're so clingy at a young age. It's better to go home and find your mother to breastfeed. By the way, little monk, have you weaned yet? Said the young monk sarcastically. However, despite saying so, the young master Huayu's gaze towards the young monk was full of fear. Although this little guy is not very old, he is very skilled in martial arts. At least he has reached the Mingyue realm. Otherwise, as a martial artist in the 12th level of the Kaimai realm, he wouldn't be so embarrassed under his command. He suffered a big loss because he underestimated this little bald donkey before, otherwise with his lightness skills, he wouldn't have had to resort to taking hostages to escape. The little monk was immediately displeased upon hearing the words of the Flower Moon young master and exclaimed angrily, although I haven't weaned, I never ask my mother for milk. Don't falsely accuse anyone, benefactor. Is that the point? Long Yu listened with black lines all over her head. Cough cough. Young master, Changyue said weakly with a pretty little face, young master, your grudges and grievances have nothing to do with me. It's better to let me go. Don't talk nonsense, be honest. Huayu, the young master, squeezed his hand around Changyue's neck and said to her with a low tone. If it had been in the past, he would have been a little reluctant to show mercy on women, but today is a matter of life, and he has no mood to show mercy on beautiful women. Cough cough. Cough cough cough. Long Yu couldn't help but cough violently when she was pinched, as if she was about to die at any moment. The little monk across from her was startled and quickly said, don't be impulsive, benefactor. Don't hurt the female benefactor, otherwise you will be even more guilty. The sin of bullshit is profound. Can you give me a hearty word and let me leave? Huayu young master threatened with a sinister expression, and his strength increased a bit. The young monk was about to speak when suddenly a long sword fiercely plunged into the abdomen of the Flower Moon young master. With a hissing sound, the white robe of the Flower Moon young master was immediately stained red with blood. The one who made the move was Changyue, using an iron and wood knife. Since the invention of the iron and wood knife, Changyue usually brings it with her when going out, but it is hidden under the long hem of her skirt, which most people cannot even notice. Due to the influence of the golden finger, young Master Huayu always thought that Changyue was an ordinary person, which is why he was so easily attacked. You. Young Master Huayu widened his eyes and looked at Changyue incredulously. Changyue saw that the other party still had the strength to speak, and with even more force, the iron wooden knife inserted into the abdomen of the Flower Moon young master penetrated his flesh and blood. After years of training in his second body, Changyue has long been accustomed to the blood. Although it was his first time stabbing someone, he did not feel any discomfort psychologically. You are a warrior. You. This bitch. The Flower Moon young master's face was full of anger and pain, and he raised his hand to slap Long Moon. However, Long Moon was already prepared and used the instant body technique. In the blink of an eye, he dodged to the side, and Flower Moon young master's palm fell flat. Almsgiver, take a bowl of me. The little monk across from him was very clever. Seeing Changyue escape, he suddenly let out a cry of surprise and threw the stone bowl in his hand quickly, fiercely smashing it at the young Master Huayu. The young Master Huayu was seriously injured and couldn't dodge. He was hit straight by a stone bowl, his head blossoming, and he let out a scream before dying. Ha, I'm scared to death, little monk. The little monk patted his chest and said with a cute expression, then looked at Changyue and said, female benefactor, are you okay? Oh, it's okay. Changyue casually responded and quickly walked to the side of the corpse of the Flower Moon young master. She pulled out the iron and wood knife inserted into his body and stabbed him again. After confirming that he was really dead, she began to touch the corpse. As a time traveler who has read many novels, Changyue knows that touching the body is an important means for the protagonists to get rich. As a poor and jingling person, she cannot miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Female benefactor, what are you doing? The little monk picked up the stone bowl he had left on the side and carefully wiped the blood stains on it, asking curiously. It's nothing, just play with it, Longyue said perfunctorily. The little monk clearly didn't believe it, holding his stone bowl and quietly watching from the side. After a while of exploration, a faint smile finally appeared on Changyue's face. Got rich. Changyue looked at the gold tickets in her hand with satisfaction and thought to herself, there must be tens of thousands of gold, right? The flower picker is really rich. Did he cheat from that purple Ling fairy? No matter where it comes from, it's all mine now. So the female benefactor is looking for money. The little monk suddenly realized. Changyue heard the words and said, why? Do you also want it? Upon hearing this, the little monk quickly shook his head and said in a milky voice, I don't want it. Being a monk. Quit being greedy. Changyue said in silence, even if a monk refuses to kill, did you kill this person? Upon hearing this, the little monk's eyebrows were like two caterpillars tightly twisted together, muttering, But my master said this person can be killed. Master. Do you still have a master? Where is your master? Changyue asked. Upon hearing this, the little monk immediately frowned and said, my master and I have separated. Then Longyue began to follow the words of the little monk. The little monk was very simple, almost answering every question, and Longyue quickly figured out his background. The little monk, also known as Xiankong, comes from Fahua Temple in Yuezhou. He came to Mingyue to travel with his master this time. Fahua Temple is the only sect in Yuezhou, and its overall strength is much stronger than the 3 sects in Mingyue, so Yuezhou is also known as the Buddha Kingdom. During their travels, the master and apprentice heard about the deeds of the Flower Moon young master, so they decided to eliminate harm to the people and chased each other all the way to Mingyue City. Unexpectedly, the old monk seemed to have met someone and left his disciple behind to run away. The little monk Xiankong wandered alone in Mingyue City. Later, he met Huaiyue and chased him around, and later he met Changyue. The little monk is really a little monk, only 9 years old. As for why he had such a deep martial arts cultivation before the age of 10, even though Changyue kept asking, he hesitated and refused to say. Changyue had to give up, anyway, she was just a little curious and didn't have to know. After a moment of contemplation, Changyue took out a golden ticket and stuffed it into the stone bowl of the little monk in the dark sky, saying, those who see it have a share. Here, this is for you. The little monk frowned and said, but monks should not be greedy. Before he could finish speaking, Changyue patted his bald head and said, all right, what about quitting greed? You little monk is also too lazy. What kind of greed is this? It's called a reasonable income. Children just need to listen to adults, thinking too much is useless. Besides, do you need to eat when you come out to hang out, little monk? I can make a fortune, said the little monk Xiankong in a low voice. However, although the monk can make a fortune, in fact, Xiankong has not eaten for a day. Without the accompaniment of his master, the little monk felt embarrassed to make excuses towards others. There's no such thing as your own fragrance when you make a fortune, Changyue said helplessly. Also, your master is unreliable and left you as a child. Master is very good, the little monk lowered his head to defend himself, while silently carefully stuffing the golden ticket into his arms. All right, let's not talk anymore. It doesn't matter to me whether your master is good or not. I'm going back to Mingyue City, what about you? I will also go back together, young monk. So a big and a small group returned to Mingyue City together, and as soon as they returned to the city, the two parted ways. I haven't seen any mulberry leaves all the way, so Changyue decided to go home and take a look. Just before she arrived home, she saw Changyue in a group of people rushing towards the outside of the city, led by her second brother Li Changyue. Li Changyue, who is currently 18 years old, is 2 years younger than the eldest son Li Changming and travels 2 years in the Li Mansion. Mississippi. Changyue saw her own young lady at a glance and immediately rushed over, hugging her tightly. Thank goodness, it's really great that you're okay. At this moment, Li Changyue also brought someone over and asked in confusion, "Seventh sister, I heard your maid say you were kidnapped by criminals. Why?" Cough cough. Cough cough cough. Changyue gently pushed away the mulberry leaves, covered her chest, and said with a pale face, "There's such a thing." Cough cough. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to be saved by a passing hero. Cough cough cough. The culprit has already been executed. Li Changyue breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the words and said, "I see. 7 sisters are really lucky to have nothing to do. Otherwise, it wouldn't be too much to cut that thief 1,000 times." Then he asked again, "I don't know who the hero who saved 7th sister was. If it's convenient, it would be better for me to thank you in person." Changyue shook her head and said, "Little sister, I don't know. After that hero saved me, he left without leaving his name. I only know that he is around 40 years old and skilled in using double swords." "Well, that's really a pity," Li Changyue said, silently thinking to himself, "is it the swordsman Zhao Hongjie who saved 7th sister? If it were him, it would be a pity not to meet once." The swordsman Zhao Hongjie is a chivalrous and courageous person who excels in both swordsmanship and is renowned in the martial arts world and highly sought after. It's just that he's as agile as a dragon, and it's not easy for ordinary people to see him. Seeing the appearance of Chimei possibly collapsing at any moment, Li Changyue thoughtfully said, "Since Chimei is fine, let's hurry back to the mansion. Chimei is weak and has been frightened again today. It's better to go back and rest early." Cough. "Thank you for your understanding, second brother." Changyue looked as if she was trying her best to suppress her cough and thanked second brother with a tired face. So a group of people gathered around Changyue and returned to the Li Mansion. At the entrance of Li Mansion, Grandma Feng, who had been abducted by criminals, was already waiting outside. Seeing Changyue's safe return, she burst into tears of joy. After returning to the yard, she carefully examined Changyue again and only felt relieved when she saw that she was really okay. After accepting Grandma Feng's concern, Changyue quickly took out the gold ticket she received today and counted it happily. Seeing her own young lady suddenly taking out so much money, Grandma Feng was startled and said, "Miss, where did you get so much money?" Changyue didn't hide anything and directly told Grandma Feng about the origin of the golden ticket, which frightened Grandma Feng quite a bit. "My little ancestor, you are so brave. You are the body of 1,000 gold, how could you take such a risk?" Long Yu comforted her and said, "Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. Besides, without experiencing wind and rain, how can I grow?" Upon hearing this, Grandma Feng could only sigh helplessly. After counting the golden tickets, Changyue found that besides the one she had given to the little monk Xiankong, she still had 12,000 gold in her hand. It was the first time she had seen so much money in this world after 14 years. Get rich. Get rich. Don't worry about running out of money in the short term now. As soon as Changyue had collected the money, the sound of mulberry leaves could be heard outside the door. "Miss, Madame Wang's mother is here." Upon hearing this, Changyue quickly lay down on the track bed and pretended to be weak. "Please, Mom Wang, come in. I have seen Miss 7. Mrs. Wang gave Changyue a gift and then handed the things in her hand to Grandma Feng. "Madam, after hearing about Miss 7's situation, specifically asked me to come and see her. These things were specially sent by Madam to repair Miss 7's health." At this moment, Changyue is extremely grateful that she has not traveled through the ancient world of her previous life, but a world that values martial arts. Otherwise, after a young lady like her was kidnapped, there would not have been any way to survive. There are countless chivalrous women walking outside this world, and naturally there is no rule that women cannot freely contact men outside to maintain their chastity. Cough, cough, cough. Changyue gasped weakly, "Thank you very much for your concern, madam." "You can thank madam for me. I am not in good health and cannot go to see her." Wang's mother said, "I understand. Miss Seven, taking care of her body is important." After saying that, she left. Looking at the supplement in Grandma Feng's hand, Changyue thought to herself. Madam is really a good person, she has sent money again. Because I couldn't successfully buy jade when I went out this time, Changyue entrusted this task to Grandma Feng the next day. She is still in a state of shock, so it's really difficult to go out again. Having only earned a large sum of money, Grandma Feng quietly bought a large amount of jade and stone scraps back. Not only did she use them during her long-term cultivation, but Grandma Feng also had enough jade and stone to cultivate. There is no shortage of resources, and the speed of long-term cultivation has increased. At the same time, the proficiency of the jade bone technique has also rapidly improved. She just found that although Grandma Feng used jade to cultivate the jade bone technique, it could also improve her cultivation speed, but the effect was not as good as hers. Is it the function of the golden finger? Changyue guessed so. 2 months have passed in the blink of an eye, and the information on Long Moon's golden finger has undergone a huge change once again. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Lower and lower level skill. Jade bone technique, slightly improved by 20%. Martial arts. Basic knife technique, slightly improved by 30%, instant body technique, slightly improved by 13%, weeping blood blade technique, 42% of beginner's path, martial arts realm. Kaimai realm 11 second body. Xianin Snake. Not only has she made significant breakthroughs in her proficiency in jade bone technique, basic knife technique, and instant body technique, but she has also put the practice of weeping blood knife on the agenda and has now entered the door. In addition, Changyue's martial arts realm has also broken through to the 11th level of the Kaimai realm, and its speed can be said to be fast. You should know that currently, among the young masters and ladies of the Li family, except for the eldest lady who has been worshipped by the Chaoyun sect and the eldest young master who has been away for a long time, the highest cultivation is Li Changyue, the second brother of Changyue. He is currently on the 12th level of the Kaimai realm, and Changyue is only 1 level behind him. With the advantages of various factors, I believe that surpassing him is only a matter of time. But now Changyue has to temporarily stop practicing because the second body has already digested the exotic beasts in her body and awakened from a deep sleep, unable to continue providing her with qi and blood for cultivation. It seems like we're hunting again. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Exploration of new areas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Exploration of new areas. At night, Changyue remained in a cultivation state and shifted her consciousness to the second body. The mysterious Een snake slowly opens its eyes in an unnamed underwater cave. Compared to a few months ago, after digesting 2 exotic beasts, it has become even larger in size, at least a dozen meters long, with shiny silver scales and terrifying pressure emanating from all over its body. Now the Xianin snake can barely be called a behemoth. Changyue gently twisted her body a few times, activating the meridians and bones, and the seawater churned violently under its movements, as if it was about to boil. After exercising well and swimming rapidly out of the cave for a long month, it found that its speed had become faster and more flexible. The change in body shape did not cause any inconvenience to it, but rather the tremendous power of dormancy in its body gave it a full sense of security. With the nourishment of 2 complete exotic beasts, the strength of Changyue's second body has greatly increased, which is completely different from the state when he just transformed into an exotic beast. The fish in the sea were immediately frightened and fled everywhere when they saw the terrifying giant Xianyin snake swimming out of the cave. Changyue turned a blind eye to this, and now these small fish and shrimp have no effect on its growth, at most they can only fill its stomach. But the pursuit for a long time is not only to fill the stomach, but also to quickly enhance strength. Today, Changyue plans to leave her territory and explore outside. After thinking for a while, Changyue chose the east and swam forward without hesitation. I don't know how long I swam, but Long Yu found that the surrounding environment had hardly changed. There was still an endless and empty seabed, scattered with large patches of seaweed, and schools of small fish and shrimp were wandering in the water. Besides, there was nothing, which made it very disappointed. How can we continue hunting like this? Time is wasted searching for prey, why not go to the sea and see? Last time I went to the sea, Changyue encountered two groups of seabirds fighting, and it even became a fisherman once. Maybe there will be a harvest this time. After making up its mind, Changyue began to move upstream, and soon the sunlight appeared in its sight. Leaving her head out of the water, Changyue looked around and saw that the shimmering sea was calm, with no coastline around and no flying birds in the sky. This just as the moon was struggling, it noticed a black dot in the distance, but because it was too far away, it couldn't see it accurately. So, it should be an island. With this discovery, Changyue was overjoyed and immediately planned to set off towards the island. To be honest, it has been tired of staying in the sea for a long time. Apart from seawater, it is also seawater, and it can't even see a single strand of hair. Sometimes, it can even make snakes scared. The feeling of being in a lonely deep sea, to be honest, is not very wonderful. Twisting his body, Long Yu quickly headed towards the island. The so-dot called watching the mountain and running the dead horse is now replaced by watching the island and swimming the dead snake. The reason is the same. After swimming for most of the day, it takes a long month to gradually see the rough outline of the island. That seems to be a crescent-shaped island, lush with trees. From a distance, it looks like a tuft of hair has grown on a smooth human skin. The sea is the skin, and the island with trees is the tuft of hair. Yuyo, you're about to reach the vicinity of the island, but it's getting dark. After dark, Changyue gave up her plan to continue on her journey. Although it has the ability to see at night, the night is when the Xianyin snake absorbs the moonlight for cultivation. Practice is more important. I casually found a reef where I could live, and Changyue coiled her slender body on it. Then, she raised her neck and began practicing the technique of inviting the moon to bloom. She had already instructed her mother-in-law Feng and Sanji to practice in seclusion for 2 to 3 days, asking them not to disturb her, so it's okay if their consciousness doesn't return to their original form during these 2 to 3 days. Martial artists have a special physique. As long as they have sufficient qi and blood, there will be no problem during cultivation without eating for 2 to 3 days. As the strands of moonlight were refined into her body, Changyue felt as if her skin beneath her scales was breathing, making her body feel completely relaxed. Previously, Changyue had already searched for information about the Xianyin snake in the Li family's library. According to the records of the Li family, this exotic beast was born by bathing in the moonlight and was born with the ability to cultivate with the help of the moonlight. It can even use the moonlight to unleash various illusions and grow up to adulthood, even having the ability to move mountains and fill the sea. Unfortunately, the Li family only has a brief account of the Xianyin snake, as it is said that this special exotic beast was extinct a long time ago. Strange beasts are not commonly seen, let alone special ones like the Xianyin snake. After working hard all night to cultivate, Long Yu became energetic the next day, so Mao exerted all his strength to continue his journey and finally successfully reached the edge of the island. However, there was no hasty landing on the island for a long time, as the island was much larger than it had anticipated. Who knows if there might be any unpredictable danger on the island? I cautiously swam along the coastline of the island, but Long Yu didn't notice any danger, so I was planning to land on the island. However, at this moment, it sensed that the surrounding water flow seemed to be undergoing some unknown change, and this discovery inevitably raised its vigilance to the highest level. The perception of animals is very sensitive, so Longyue chose to trust the intuition of this body, instinctively swaying his body and quickly swimming to the side. It was precisely at this moment that a bloody mouth rushed out of the sea and fiercely bit towards Changyue. Longyue didn't even think about it. She raised her tail and fiercely pulled at the attacking creature, directly flying it away. Unconsciously, Changyue had already been surrounded by a group of sharks. These sharks have a very peculiar appearance, not only covered with hard and sharp scales on their backs, but also a row of ferocious barbs on their spine. Coupled with their sharp teeth in their mouths, they are exceptionally fierce. When did these sharks come over? It didn't notice any signs before. The vanguard was repelled, and the other sharks saw that they had been discovered by Changyue, so they gave up their plan to launch a surprise attack and immediately flew fiercely towards Changyue one by one. Changyue didn't have any fear at all. "You guys have big mouths, don't I dare to provoke my mother, I'll take one bite at a time." So it also opened its mouth and tore at the shark. Its body size is much larger than that of sharks. There are also exotic beasts in this group of sharks, even several, but each one's strength is not as good as Changyue's. Just because they have a large number, they can use the human sea tactic. Soon, Changyue's beautiful body appeared with large wounds under the bite of sharks, and some areas became bald due to the shedding of scales. The bloody smell stimulated the ferocity of the sharks, but at the same time, it also stimulated the nerves of the Long Moon. It went crazy and shuttled through the shark pack, even swallowing several sharks raw, and the surrounding seawater turned blood red. The taste is good, but the spines on their backs pricked their throats a bit. Despite killing many sharks, it was difficult to defeat 4 hands with 2 fists. The injuries on Changyue's body became increasingly severe, and the intense pain gradually calmed his feverish head. "This is not a solution, let's run away first." So after swallowing another shark, Changyue turned around and swam towards the shore. Its speed is very fast, and its body is agile. In the blink of an eye, it shook off its tail behind it and climbed to the shore. After successfully landing, those sharks could only stare in the water. Although there were exotic beasts among them, they were not strong enough to break free from their natural instincts, and could only watch as the food in their mouths ran away. Before leaving, Longyue glared fiercely at the shark pack and said, "Wait, come back sooner or later to settle accounts with you." This island is lush with vegetation, and Changyue found a safe thicket to hide in, intending to take a break first. It just experienced a fight and now it's a bit weak. Fortunately, during the battle, it swallowed several sharks, although none of them were at the level of exotic beasts, they were enough to replenish its stamina. After resting with closed eyes for half a day, I felt that my physical strength had recovered well. Longyue slowly opened his eyes and planned to continue exploring the island. It doesn't plan to return to its previous underwater cave in the short term, so it's better to find a place to live on the island first. The situation on the island is unknown, and Changyue did not rashly reveal her figure. Instead, she chose to use the cover of grass to explore outward step by step. At this moment, on a branch not far from Changyue, a large white bird flew from somewhere. Its sharp eyes seemed to have noticed Changyue's existence, so it quaked and called out in a very unpleasant voice, as if mocking Changyue's mottled scales. During the battle with the shark pack, Changyue's beautiful silver scales fell off a lot, so at this moment, it looked very disheveled, like a snake from a distance. I had already been very concerned about my current appearance, but now I noticed the mockery in Big Bird's eyes. Long Month was burning with anger. "You, a broken bird, dare to mock my mother, and don't even look at how many pounds you weigh. I happen to have nowhere to vent my anger now, so let's take it out of you first." So Changyue pounced and flew high in an instant, biting the big bird standing on the branch with her mouth open. The white bird seemed to have never imagined that Changyue would suddenly launch a surprise attack, and its eyes were filled with astonishment as it was swallowed by Changyue in one gulp. You! Don't talk about martial arts. I ate too quickly and didn't taste it. Changyue's mouth twitched twice and thought to herself, sure enough, compared to furry birds, fish in the water are more delicious. After becoming a snake, Changyue's taste and body are different. Overcoming the initial discomfort, it can now enjoy itself even after drinking blood. All for survival, not to be ashamed. After eating the mockingbird, Longyu continued to cautiously explore the depths of the island. The more it walked inside, the more it felt something was wrong, because after only a short while, it encountered several strange beasts in succession. A green lizard with a body size even larger than it, a black bear covered in hard steel fur, an ape leading monkeys and grandchildren, and a sika deer leading the population. Isn't this island full of exotic beasts? After careful consideration, I haven't continued to explore deeper for a long time. I'm worried that if I encounter something difficult to match, it will be ruined. So in the following time, it began to focus only on understanding the situation around here. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Thinking that the agreed-upon seclusion time with Granny Feng and her companions had already arrived, Changyue found an underground crevice to hide and planned to return to her original consciousness first. This underground crack entrance is narrow and concealed, making it difficult to be detected. It was also found unintentionally and can be used for temporary hiding. After consciousness returned to its original form, Changyue found that her body was still practicing the jade bone technique independently. However, this time she did not gain much qi and blood from the second body, so there was no excess accumulation of qi and blood in the meridians. Seeing Changyue coming out of the room, Grandma Feng, who was guiding the cultivation of mulberry leaves in the yard, quickly greeted her and asked, "Miss, how have you achieved in these few days of closed-door cultivation?" Changyue smiled and replied, "I have gained a lot." "Grandma, is there anything else happening in the yard these days?" Grandma Feng smiled and replied, "No, everything is fine. There's nothing we can do here." Changyue nodded with satisfaction and said, "That's good. Then I'll stay in seclusion for a few more days and strive to achieve my martial arts cultivation as soon as possible." Grandma Feng said happily, "Miss, you can rest assured to practice in seclusion. There are old slaves involved in the yard." Changyue gratefully said, "Thank you, Mother.in law." So after taking a long day off and familiarizing himself with the martial arts he had learned a few times, the next day he declared himself closed again, and then his consciousness returned to his second body. Today it plans to officially start hunting. A few days ago, it had roughly figured out the situation nearby. In this small area, there were a total of 8 exotic beasts present. In addition to the lizards, apes, black bears, and sika deer it had discovered earlier, Changyue later discovered 4 different exotic beasts. Spiders, porcupines, spotted tigers, and black snakes, 1 each. Today, Changyue plans to take action against that lizard monster. Judging from its aura, the lizard monster is the weakest among the 8 nearby monsters, and Changyue feels that there is a high chance of winning against it. Quietly sneaking into the territory of the giant lizard, Changyue discovered it lying on a boulder, closing its eyes and basking in the sun, in a very peaceful state. In order to avoid attracting the other party's attention, Changyue slowly climbed up a big tree under the cover of grass and trees, and then lurked on the branches of the tree quietly waiting for the opportunity to strike the other party with a fatal blow. Don't look at the other person lying lazily motionless, Changyue dare not take it lightly. Alien beasts are top-notch predators, who knows if they are luring prey to appear now. Time passed by minute by second, and Longyu waited from noon until almost sunset. Finally, the motionless lizard yawned lightly, feeling extremely exhausted and lazy. Without any hesitation, Changyue shot out from the tree crown and bit the opponent's neck with her mouth open. But the big lizard seemed to have been prepared for it long ago. With a gentle force on its limbs, it ejected from the boulder and easily avoided the attack of the long moon. When the long moon, which had failed its attack, collided with a boulder, it bounced again and turned to pounce at the moon, its speed astonishing the snake. I was deceived. Long months are extremely regretful. Unable to dodge in time, Changyue was pounced upon by the opponent. As the other person's mouth was about to fall on his own neck, Changyue made a decisive decision, twisted his slender snake body, and then forcefully tightened it, wrapping it around the giant lizard's body, pulling it from its abdomen to its neck. The giant lizard was unwilling to be outdone, its sharp claws pulling wildly, and its hard, iron-like toenails slashed over Changyue's body, adding insult to injury to Changyue's already underdeveloped scales. Long months ago, what I was most satisfied with was my beautiful scales. Now, both of them are picking on my own scales. It gets angry and suddenly feels an unknown force burst out from all over its body, exerting even more force on the giant lizard's body, pulling out its tongue. Xianin snake is a species of exotic beasts that can refine the moonlight and give birth to the power of Taiyin. But at this moment, Changyue didn't know that her second body had the power of Taiyin. She only felt a special energy suddenly surge out of her heart. With the blessing of this force, her combat power greatly increased, and she managed to strangle the giant lizard to death. Changyue saw the giant lizard motionless and opened its mouth to bite into the opponent's neck, penetrating the scales there and sucking heavily on their blood. The blood of this giant lizard is not tasty, with a particularly strong fishy smell, but it has not been disliked for a long time. It still swallows in large gulps without wasting a drop. As a large amount of blood entered the stomach, Long Yu's whole body became warm and warm, with waves of heat erupting from its stomach, constantly washing away its blood. As soon as she returned to the underground crevice, Long Yu fell into a deep sleep, and at the same time, her consciousness automatically returned to its original form. At this moment, the bright moon rose high, and the bright moonlight shone through the cracks on the body of the Xianin snake. Surprisingly, white mist filled the entire body of the Xianin snake at this moment. The white mist gently revolves around the Xianin snake, and with each breath, it enters its body through its mouth and nose. There is a wonderful rhythm between each breath, causing the body of the Xianin snake to even emit a faint white light. As the white light gradually enveloped the body of the Xianin snake, its originally torn wound was healing at a visible speed to the naked eye, and new scales were slowly growing out. Upon returning to his original form, Long Yu discovered that his meridians had indeed accumulated a large amount of qi and blood. She dared not delay and quickly accelerated the operation of the jade bone technique, continuously refining these qi and blood into true qi. I don't know if it's her own illusion, but she feels like her speed of refining qi and blood has increased significantly. The second body transmitted a lot of qi and blood this time, and Long Yu spent a whole day refining it. After opening her eyes, she noticed that she had broken through again, and Changyue quickly opened her golden finger. Name: Li Changyue. Age: 14. Root bone. Inferior skill: Jade bone technique, slightly improved by 21%. Martial arts: Basic knife technique, slightly improved by 32%, instant body technique, slightly improved by 16%, weeping blood knife technique, 46% of beginner's path, martial arts realm. 12 pulse opening realm's second body. Xianin snake. Seeing the message on the golden finger, Changyue's face showed a smile. Indeed, it has broken through. The 12th level of the Kaimai realm. After the 12th level, you will enter the Mingyue realm, which means that Changyue can be considered a little expert. According to her speculation, Li Changming's cultivation level should be at this level. The Mingyue realm is not like the Kaimai realm because it requires the development of 12 meridians, so it is divided into 12 layers. It has only 2 levels of realms, namely the lower Yuan realm and the upper Yuan realm. After the completion of the 12 layers of the Xingjing, in order for martial artists to further their cultivation, they must break through the Ren and Du meridians. Breaking through the Ren meridian is the lower Yuan realm, and breaking through the Du meridian is the entry into the upper Yuan realm. Only by connecting the 2 meridians of Ren and Du, and forming a complete and flawless small world with the 12 meridians that open the meridian realm, can a warrior have an unobstructed body. However, the Rendu 2 meridians are not as easy to cultivate as the 12 cannons. They represent that the warrior has entered another world of cultivation, and the warrior's body without leakage is not so easy to cultivate. Just as Changyue was overjoyed that she had finally broken through to the 12th level of the Kaimai realm, her remaining light suddenly noticed another change on her golden finger. Root bone. Inferior. Didn't her roots weight lower before? How did it become inferior? Originally, she felt that her speed of refining qi and blood had increased before. That's not an illusion. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Marriage. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9. Marriage. After finishing his cultivation, Changyue went out to the yard to practice swordsmanship. Sanji looked at the situation and asked in confusion, "Miss, has your quarantine ended? Didn't you say you were going to be closed for 3 days? It's only been less than 2 days." As Changyue waved her iron and wooden knife, she replied, "I achieved some success, so I left the level early." Upon hearing this, Sanji was immediately happy and said, "Miss, you are indeed a genius. I also need to work hard, otherwise it won't be good to be left too far behind by Mississippi." After speaking, she also ran to the corner of the yard to start practicing swordsmanship. The swordsmanship practiced by Sanji is uniformly distributed by the Lee family and may not be considered advanced, but Sanji has practiced for several years at least, so she has practiced it quite well. After practicing the knife technique, Changyue had a delicious meal prepared by Grandma Feng, and then returned to her room to practice again, instructing Grandma Feng and Sanji not to disturb her. Changyue tried to transfer her consciousness to the second body without any obstacles, and succeeded in an instant. Has this awakened from deep sleep? So fast. Compared to the last time digesting those 2 seabirds, this time digesting the giant lizard is much faster. The Xianin snake, possessed by the long moon, opened its eyes and quickly noticed the changes in its body. Her beautiful scales have all grown up, and her body is full of strength. "I can play 10. Changyue shouted in her heart while raising her tail and fiercely pulling at the large stone beside her. In just an instant, the stone became shattered and exploded. "Wow, I've become so amazing. It's great to be a monster. As long as you eat and eat, you can constantly become stronger." Changyue was happy to become stronger while silently sighing in her heart. Meanwhile, Changyue also discovered another thing, which is that it has shed its skin. On the ground not far away, there was a snake skin that seemed to have just peeled off, and Changyue recognized it as her own at a glance. Is the reason for the change in one's own body and bones the shedding of the second body? Changyue couldn't help but speculate. Besides, it can't think of any other reasons. Since you have become stronger, let's go out and try our skills. Changyue plans to continue attacking other exotic beasts, allowing them to sacrifice blood and meat for her journey toward strength. The target of Long Yu's decision to take action this time is his own snake-like creature, the black snake xenomorph. In fact, compared to black snakes, the 3 exotic beasts of deer, monkeys, and spiders are weaker, but they are social creatures surrounded by countless horses. I understand the truth that ants often bite elephants. It has already suffered losses in this regard before, so I think it's better not to provoke those 3 for now. The black snake beast lives in a pond, and has been stepping on it for a long time. Therefore, it quietly ambushes outside the pond, planning to wait for the black snake to come out and attack the other party when it comes out to forage. Quickly, the black snake in the pond poked its head out of the water. Its body was slightly smaller than that of Changyue, and its scales were dark in color. There was only a yellow spot on its forehead, and it was unclear if this thing was poisonous. Changyue himself is not poisonous, but this black snake looks a bit like a venomous snake with a triangular head. However, the characteristics of exotic animals and ordinary animals in this world are not exactly the same, so Long Yu cannot determine whether this thing is poisonous. It's better to be careful. The black snake slowly crawled out of the pool, but its speed was not fast. It twisted its body and slowly swam towards the forest. Changyue didn't rush to take action and followed the black snake from a distance. Not long after, the black snake spotted a huge mouse and rushed over without hesitation. Although the mouse looked incredibly large, it was clearly not a monster and had no ability to resist the black snake. It was swallowed in just a few bites. A mouse cannot satisfy the black snake, and it continues to hunt. Changyue has been following it for a long time, looking back and forth. It has swallowed about 10 giant mice, and its waist has become thicker in a big circle. Having eaten enough, the black snake's movement became even slower as it wobbled and prepared to return to the pool. At this moment, Changyue suddenly burst out. After eating and drinking enough, it was the easiest time for the black snake to get tired and relax its vigilance. Its reaction speed became noticeably slow, and it was bitten 7 inches hard by the sudden appearance of the long moon, making a mournful hissing sound in its mouth. The bodies of the rolling black snake and the long moon intertwined, and both giant snakes exerted force simultaneously, attempting to strangle each other with their bodies. No matter how much they tumble and entangle with each other, Longyue tightly bites each other's 7-inch mouth without letting go. Without knowing if the other person is a venomous snake, it is impossible for them to let their head move freely, and it is not a joke to be bitten by them. The black snake raised its head and roared, rolling even more fiercely. Along with the long moon, it rolled several times, and several large trees around it were broken by the two of them in succession. The roaring sound from the forest was incessant. The power of the Tai-in at Changyue's heart erupted once again. If it hadn't discovered the killing of the giant lizard before, this time it finally truly felt this power. With the emergence of the power of the Tai-in, Changyue bit the black snake's 7-inch mouth even harder, but in the end, she bit off that spot and pulled the black snake's head off. 7 inches apart, the black snake suddenly died. After killing the black snake, Changyue collapsed on the ground exhausted and rested for a while before gradually swallowing the black snake into her stomach. Looking at the snake blood flowing all over the ground, Changyue felt a bit regretful. This thing is a big help. Fortunately, without snake blood, there is still snake bile, which is also a great tonic. Probably because she became stronger, after swallowing the black snake this time, Changyue no longer felt the drowsiness she had before. It thought for a moment and decided to visit the water pool where Black Snake lived, intending to take possession of it. Compared to the underground crevices where he had previously lived, the Black Snake's pool was clearly a better place to live. Although it is tired of living in previous underwater caves, it still prefers places with water over dry land. Returning to the edge of the pond, Changyue carefully lowered the water, only to be surprised to find that it was still a cold pond. The icy and cool pool water is very appetizing for the long moon, and swimming inside feels extremely comfortable. Before the second body transformed into a monster, it was a water snake, and indeed, it had some dependence on water. The area of the water pool is not large, but it is quite deep. The body size of the long moon is more than 10 meters, and it took a while to dive to the bottom. Just the bottom of the pond was empty, with nothing, which disappointed Changyue quite a bit. It also thought that if the black snake had stored its treasure, it could make an unexpected fortune. Forget it, if not, it's not bad. It's also good to earn up real estate. Just like this, lying at the bottom of the pond for a long month, I began to sleep and digest the black snake. The water quality in this cold pond is very clear. At night, moonlight shines through the pond and shines on the body of the Shenin snake. The snake's body is once again shrouded in layers of white mist. The white mist rises and falls with the breathing of the Shenin snake, stimulating it to accelerate the digestion of the black snake in its belly. This phenomenon has been unknown for a long time, and she has returned to her original form to refine the qi and blood brought to her by the black snake. Time flies, and a month passes by in a blink of an eye. Changyue is a person who can endure loneliness, and she has been living a very regular life this month. When practicing in seclusion, one becomes possessed by the Xianyin snake and goes out to hunt, practicing martial arts in the gaps between seclusion. As her strength grew stronger, she devoured porcupines, black bears, spotted tigers, and spiders one by one in the following days. The time when she killed the spider was really critical, she almost couldn't make it through. The spider monster was actually a highly poisonous monster. Although Changyue was extremely careful, she was still bitten by that guy, and with many horses, she almost died from a group beating. Fortunately, by the grace of heaven, she had gained insight into the special power within the Xianyin snake this month. With this power, it had completely killed a nest of spiders. The biggest problem is still spider venom. Fortunately, everything is interdependent, and there is a kind of strange grass growing in the territory of spiders and beasts, which has a miraculous effect on detoxification. Changyue accidentally swallowed a plant of that kind of strange grass to detoxify spiders. Perhaps for a month, Changyue acted too recklessly, attracting the attention of other exotic beasts, especially the ape and monkey. It seemed particularly intelligent. After noticing the disappearance of nearby exotic beasts one by one, it even thought of joining forces with the Sika deer population to resist Changyue. Nowadays, with the strength of Changyue, it is easy to eliminate the ape and Sika deer populations alone, but if it were to deal with both populations at the same time, it would be powerless, so it can only temporarily give up its plan to kill them. What disappointed Changyue was that although she had refined a large amount of qi and blood, all 12 meridians had been connected, and the true qi in the meridians and elixir fields was surging incessantly, she was still unable to clear the Ren meridian and enter the lower Yuan realm. It seems that it's not easy to break through to the Ningyuan realm. At noon that day, after practicing swordsmanship, Changyue was having lunch with Grandma Feng and the others in the room when Mrs. Wang, who was next to the eldest lady, suddenly came to visit. "I've seen Miss Seven," Mrs. Wang said with a smile as she bowed to Changyue. "Mrs. Wang is coming at this moment, but what orders does Madam have?" Changyue asked in confusion. Wang's mother explained, "It's not Madam. Today, the master came to the backyard and is currently at Madam's place. The master said he has something to discuss with Miss Seven, so Madam sent the old servant over to invite Miss Seven to come." Changyue was immediately surprised when she heard these words. Father has something to discuss with him. This is really strange. If anyone in this family is the most unfamiliar to Changyue, it must be his father Li Xian. She occasionally meets other people and says a few words, but she doesn't necessarily meet this father once every year or holiday. Today, this cheap father actually remembered himself and even said he had something to discuss with him. It's like the sun is shining in the west. Changyue looked extremely surprised and said, "Father. Are you saying Father wants to see me? It's really great. I haven't seen Father for a long time." Cough. Cough cough. As she reached the point of excitement, she coughed violently and her face turned even paler. Wang's mother comforted Changyue and said, "Miss Seven, don't get excited. The master is waiting at Madam's place." At the same time, she felt a bit pitiful in her heart, even seeing her biological father was so difficult. "Okay, let's hurry up and leave." Cough 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 cough. "Don't. Cough cough cough. Don't let Father wait for a long time." As she spoke for a long time, she helped Sanji sway and walked out. Changyue walked 3 times to the courtyard of the eldest lady, and indeed saw her father Li Xian here. He was talking to the eldest lady Luo Fengqiao for some reason, and the eldest lady's eyebrows were furrowed. "Daughter Changyue has seen father." Cough cough. "Seen wife." Changyue bowed to the couple. "Long months have come," Li Xian said, looking at his daughter with unfamiliar eyes. Immediately after, his eyebrows furrowed tightly and he looked at Long Yu with a pale face in surprise. He knew that his 7th daughter had been weak since childhood, but now she looks even worse. "Is this really okay? I don't know." Cough. What did the father ask his daughter to come over for? Changyue leaned against Changyue, gently covering her mouth and nose with a handkerchief, with a look of utmost restraint, and Li Xian's eyebrows furrowed. Li Xian spoke up and said, "The situation is like this. A few days ago, when I was gathering with the head of the Song family, he revealed his intention to form a family relationship with our family." Quickly, Changyue learned from Li Xian the reason for his call. "Good guy, I said I can't remember you all year round. Why did you suddenly get interested today? It turns out you're waiting for me here." The Song family, like the Li family, are both well-known big families in Mingyue City. It is not uncommon for this aristocratic family to intermarry with each other, so it is not surprising that the head of the Song family proposes to marry the Li family. The head of the Song family does not have a daughter, so if the two families want to get married, the Li family can only marry their daughter to the Song family. But among the several daughters of the Li family who are suitable for marriage, Li Changning, the third eldest daughter, is Li Xian's favorite. Now that she is in the Chaoyun sect, it is naturally impossible for her to come out for marriage. In addition, the fourth Li Changyue, the fifth Li Changyun, and the eighth Li Changyue have all shown good martial arts talents. Li Xian has high expectations for them and does not want them to marry out. Therefore, he thought of his seventh daughter, who cannot be cultivated. After listening to Li Xian's words, Changyue began to cry. Upon hearing Long Yu cry, Li Xian's head turned big and he said, "Okay, what are you crying for? Isn't this a good thing for you? Your situation. Damn it, why don't you marry yourself?" Changyue's current goal is to pursue the pinnacle of martial arts, so there is no intention of getting married. Before Li Xian could finish speaking, Changyue interrupted him. "Wu, does my father dislike me? I knew he never liked me. With my health like this, I don't know how long I can live. If someone bullies me, I might be gone the next day." Cough 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 cough. As he spoke for a long time, he began to cough violently. His pale face turned red due to excessive excitement, and his body completely collapsed on Sanji's body. The appearance of the long moon made Li Xian tremble with fear that she might faint from a big breath. Sanyi is very clever. When she saw her own young lady crying, she couldn't help but cry uncontrollably. She kept muttering, "Master, please have mercy on the young lady and spare her. In my situation, if I die at my husband's house, not to mention that the two families are married." Cough 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 cough. Speaking of this, Long Yu couldn't help but cough again. "I'm afraid we are enemies with him." Cough 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 cough. "Master." The lady looked at the master and servant crying sadly and couldn't help but say, "Why don't we just forget it?" All right. Li Xianchi couldn't bear it anymore and said impatiently, "I'm just discussing with you, isn't I forcing you to get married?" Upon hearing this, Changyue immediately stopped crying and wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief, looking surprised. "Ahem. Really? Father. My daughter doesn't want to get married, she just wants to be filial to you at home." "Ahem. I'm not old enough to demand your filial piety. Besides, what kind of filial piety can you show me like this? I'll give black-haired people a gift from the white-haired ones in the future." Li Xian couldn't express his true feelings, but waved his hand and said, "All right, you go back and take good care of yourself. Our Li family still can't afford to raise a girl." Although he didn't pay much attention to this daughter, he didn't want her to die early. The marriage alliance should be abandoned. Besides, what Lao Chi said also makes sense. With her body, don't just marry into the Song family and lose it. It won't be a marriage, but a feud. "Thank you very much, father. I knew my father doted on me," Changyue said with a grateful expression on her face, and then she helped the mulberry leaves sway 3 times before leaving Madame's yard. As soon as Changyue left, Li Xian let out a deep sigh and said to the eldest lady, "How could Lao Chi have such a bad temper? He would cry and cry at a word he didn't agree with, and I don't know who he looked like." Anyway, he didn't look like his wise and powerful self. In Li Xian's memory, Su Shuiyuan, the birth mother of Lao Qi, was also a girl with a bright personality and a resilient temperament, which was very likable. If it weren't for the unexpected misfortune of the Su family, Su Shuiyuan wouldn't have died of depression at a young age. The eldest lady comforted her husband and said, "Master, don't be angry either. Old Seven's birth mother passed away early, and she usually hides in the yard and doesn't go out. It's normal for her to be a bit weak." Ah. That's it. After he finished speaking, he stood up and planned to leave, but halfway through, he turned back to the lady and said, "By the way, Fengxiao, you can send someone to my warehouse later to pick some suitable supplements for Lao Qi and send them to her." "I know, sir." Luo Fengxiao nodded. As soon as Changyue returned to the yard and closed the gate, her weak face disappeared instantly. "Sanji, you just performed well," praised Changyue. "Hee hee." Sanji smiled foolishly, "It would be great if you could help Mississippi." Before the master and servant could finish speaking, the courtyard door was knocked on again. Sanji opened the door and saw that the butler had arrived. "Miss Seven, the master asked me to send you some supplements and also instructed you to take good care of yourself," the butler said respectfully. Upon hearing this, Changyue was moved and said, "Father. Father is really kind to me, woo-woo." She couldn't help but cry again, vividly portraying Little White Flower's character. Long month is a bit unexpected, but the cheap dad is quite generous. The butler advised, "Miss Seven, take care. The master naturally values you, and you should also cherish your health." "I understand," cough cough. "Thank you very much for the butler's visit. Please tell your father that Changyue will strive to live a few more years and show filial piety to his father." Although the words were spoken in this way, Changyue had already been thinking in her heart whether she wanted to go out and live for a period of time. When did the cheap old man think of him again? Today I asked her to get married, but tomorrow I'm not sure what she's going to do. Go out and hide for a while. Changyue made such a determined decision in her heart. "I just need to report to the Grand Madam if I want to leave the mansion, but I don't think she will object." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Killing Enemies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Killing Enemies. The next day, Changyue took mulberry leaves and went to Madam's place again. "Madam, I want to stay at Jingyan Temple outside the city for a period of time," said Changyue to Madam. The eldest lady asked in confusion, "Why did you suddenly think of going to Jingyan Temple? Are you still blaming your father for mentioning the marriage alliance yesterday?" Changyue quickly shook her head and said, "How could it be? My father sent me a supplement yesterday. Changyue knows about my father's love for Changyue, and that's why I thought about going to Jingyan Temple to pray for him. Your father's mention of that matter yesterday was also out of kindness. The parents' love for their son is far-reaching, and since you are in this situation, he has been worried about your future. It would be best if you could understand. Since you have this filial piety, I naturally have no reason not to agree." The eldest lady, while helping her husband, agreed to Long Yu's request and said, "You usually stay in the yard and never go out. It would be better if you were willing to go out and stay for a while now to save yourself from being suffocated at home." "Just." Madam hesitated for a moment. "It's a bit unsettling that you, a weak woman with no strength, are going out. Why don't I let Kaiyun and Saixia by my side accompany you?" In fact, the eldest lady doesn't want to send her own people to Changyue. She even thinks that the people are not enough. Besides, once her people go with her, wouldn't she have to bear a lot of responsibility if she had to go out for a long time? Upon hearing this, Changyue quickly refused and said, "No need to trouble Madam. I just need Sanji and Grandma Feng to accompany me. Grandma Feng has excellent martial arts skills, and with her, there won't be any problems." Upon hearing that Changyue was enfeoffed as his mother. Law, Luo Fengxiao immediately put an end to his plan to send someone to Changyue. Grandma Feng is a master in the lower Yuan realm. Except for a few confidants around her, her cultivation level is not as good as Grandma Feng's. I can't let her send her confidant out. Since that's the case, I won't add insult to injury. Be careful when you go out, and if there's anything you need to send a message to your family at any time, your father and I both remember you. The eldest lady said a lot of good things. When are you planning to depart? I ordered the butler to see you off. I will depart early tomorrow morning. Thank you for taking the trouble, madam. We're all part of the same family. You're welcome. What are you doing? After chatting with madam for a few more words, Changyue returned to her yard with mulberry leaves and then called on Grandma Feng to pack her luggage together. The next morning, the master and servant were escorted by the butler of the Li family in a carriage to the entrance of Jingyan Temple. Miss 7, the old slave has been delivered here. The family has already sent a letter to the abbot of Jingyan Temple in advance. As long as you take the prayer card from the mansion, the monks in the temple will arrange for Miss 7. After explaining to Changyue, the butler drove away. Jingyan Temple is the only temple in the vicinity of Mingyue City, with a very prosperous incense scene and a constant stream of pilgrims coming and going. Being able to stay here for a long time is also due to the fact that the Li family donates a considerable amount of incense money to them every year. However, Jingyan Temple is just a simple temple and does not belong to the same faction as Yuezhou Fahua Temple. Otherwise, it is not certain whether it can establish a foothold in the territory of Chaoyun sect. Changyue handed the Li mansion's prayer tablet to the monk at the entrance of the temple. After confirming Changyue's identity, the monk called for a little monk to come over. Li, please follow me. Changyue nodded and said, thank you, little master. The little monk brought Changyue all the way to the back mountain of Jingyan Temple, where there are exquisite small buildings built for pilgrims who want to stay in Jingyan Temple. Each bamboo tower is independent and does not disturb each other. Jingyan Temple has received instructions from the Li family that Changyue is not in good health and needs to rest, so they have arranged a quiet environment for her. After arranging her luggage, Changyue left the small building and planned to take a stroll around to see where she could practice martial arts. After turning around, she found a small stream on the left side of the small building. By the stream grew a lush bamboo forest, which seemed to be a good place. Just as Changyue was about to cross the stream and take a look in the bamboo forest across from him, a cheerful shout suddenly came from behind. Female benefactor, is that you? The voice was so familiar to Changyue that when she turned around, she saw a small bald head with red lips and white teeth, holding a stone bowl larger than his head, looking at her with a surprised expression. Who else can it be if it's not the Xiankong little monk? The martial arts cultivation of the young monk is at least in the Mingyue realm, and his lightness skills are also very good. He took 3 steps and 2 steps, and in the blink of an eye, he jumped to Changyue's side. Female benefactor, it's really you. Why are you here? The little monk stared at Changyue with round eyes, his chubby cheeks revealing pink, and his appearance was extremely cute. Changyue didn't expect to meet the Xiankong little monk here, so she asked in response, I should have asked you that. I'm from Mingyue City, isn't it normal for me to appear at Jingyan Temple? But it's you. Did your master find me? The little monk quickly nodded and said, I found it. It's here that my master brought me. As the two were talking, a middle-aged monk ran over panting and shouting, You little brat, why are you running so fast suddenly? There's milk ahead for you to drink. Halfway through, he noticed Changyue next to the little monk. The little monk Xiankong saw the middle-aged monk coming and quickly waved at him, saying, Master, look who I met. It's the female benefactor I told you before. The middle-aged monk was taken aback by the words and immediately walked up to Changyue with a lewd expression, saying, Wonderful, wonderful. Female benefactor, in another 10 years, you will surely grow into an unparalleled beauty. I saw this monk wearing a washed white monk's robe, with his hair not shaved clean and a short, pitted head. He also had a beard that was neither long nor short on his chin, which seemed to be stained with oil. His dignified appearance, coupled with his lewd expression at the moment, is indescribable in words. Changyue was startled by the monk and quickly took 2 steps back, as if afraid of getting contaminated with something dirty. "Oh yo!" The monk quickly cleared his expression upon seeing this and turned to clasp his hands together, saying solemnly, "I'm sorry for being rude to you, benefactor. It's the fault of intelligence." Changyue clasped her hands together and bowed expressionlessly to the intelligent monk, saying, "I've seen the intelligent master before." No wonder she was able to leave the Xiankong little monk alone in Mingyue City before. This person looks unreliable. The little monk looked at Gigi with displeasure and said, "Master, you have been doing this to the female benefactor again. When I go back, I must tell the abbot." Xuankong's term abbot refers to the abbot of the Fahua temple in Yuezhou. Upon hearing these words, the intelligent monk quickly begged for mercy and said, "Oh my little ancestor, my master just casually said something. Don't tell your senior brother when you go back, otherwise you won't have a master." Xiankong pouted and said, "If not, then not. I have long wanted to be the apprentice of the abbot." "You scoundrel." His intelligent teeth itch with anger, but he can't do anything to the little monk. This is a precious lump in Fahua temple. If he dares to touch the little monk's finger, he will have to smash his head when he goes back to the abbot. Sometimes he just thinks, which disciple is this? Clearly, he is a living ancestor, unable to fight or curse. In order not to be infuriated, the intelligent monk gave up fighting with his disciple and said to Changyue with a serious expression, "Thank you very much, the female benefactor, for taking care of me before. I am extremely grateful." Changyue waved her hand and said, "Little master has excellent martial arts skills. Even without me, he can still subdue thieves. It's actually because I'm causing him trouble." No, I'm grateful for the golden ticket you gave me. 100 gold. He is so big that he has never handled so much money before. Moreover, when they came out of Fahua temple, the abbot and senior brother did not even provide them with financial support, allowing them to make a living by begging for alms. But his image really doesn't resemble that of a serious monk. Along the way, he not only failed to meet fate, but also received a lot of scolding. Now with that 100 gold coins, life is much more enjoyable. However, these heartfelt words would not be spoken to Changyue. He pretended and said, "Female benefactor, you are humble." No longer discussing this with the intelligent monk, Changyue turned to ask, "I wonder why the master is at Jingyan Temple." Intelligence and Shangdao. Recently, there have been demonic figures appearing in Minzhou. I tracked a demonic witch to Mingyue City, but I didn't expect that witch to be extremely cunning and try to seduce the poor monk. Fortunately, the poor monk remained steadfast in his Buddhist heart. The witch eventually escaped to the vicinity of Jingyan Temple and disappeared, so my master and disciples temporarily placed orders near Jingyan Temple. The intelligent monk spoke haphazardly and finally instructed Changyue, "Female benefactor, you should also pay more attention in your daily life. Those demonic figures have killed many martial artists in Minzhou. It's really hard to defend against them." After chatting with Changyue for a while, the intelligent monk left with a reluctant Xiankong, while Changyue himself went to the bamboo forest. As she thought, this bamboo forest is indeed a clean place, very suitable for practicing martial arts. In this way, the master and servant settled down in Jingyan Temple for a long month, living a very comfortable life. There was no need to worry about being discovered by the family due to excessive activity during martial arts practice. Since that day, Changyue has never seen the intelligent and Xiankong masters and disciples again. According to the little monk who came to deliver food to Changyue and his disciples, the master and disciple would go out early every morning to search for the people in the demon gate and would not come back until dark, so they spent most of their time outside the temple. This day, Changyue is practicing swordsmanship in the bamboo forest. Recently, her martial arts proficiency has increased rapidly. Currently, her proficiency in basic swordsmanship instant body technique, and sobbing blood knife has entered a new stage, which greatly encourages her enthusiasm for practicing martial arts. Basic knife technique. Practice makes perfect 21% instant body method. Practice makes perfect 24% weeping blood knife. Achieved a small success of 44% as she practiced. Changyue seemed to hear moans coming from deep in the bamboo forest. She put away her iron and wooden knife, carefully walked towards the direction where the moans came from, and soon saw a woman lying on the ground covered in blood. Help! Help me! The woman weakly pleaded for help from Changyue. The woman is very beautiful, with long hair like a waterfall and skin that surpasses snow. She looks at Changyue with a cute little face, which is extremely easy to let go of her guard. Oh roar, did you actually follow the little white flower route like me? Changyue could tell at a glance that the woman was a warrior, and her martial arts cultivation was not weak, so she did not rush forward. The woman saw Changyue standing still and pitifully said, "Please help me, Mississippi. I met an evil person on the way and unfortunately was injured by them. Cough. If Miss can save me, I will repay my benefactor with a straw and a reed tomorrow." Long Yu still didn't come forward and asked, "It's always peaceful near Jing'an Temple. How could there be any villains?" "Miss, wait a moment. I'll go notify the monks in the temple and ask them to come and save you. I know nothing about healing wounds." You. Seeing that Changyue was soft and hard, the woman finally couldn't hold her tension. Her face suddenly became fierce, and then a string of silver needles flew out of her long sleeve, shooting straight at Changyue's throat. The prepared Long Moon turned around and dodged the silver needle attack, pulling out an iron and wood knife from under her long skirt. The knife was like lightning and headed straight towards the woman. "Are you a warrior?" The woman widened her eyes in surprise and pulled out a long sword from somewhere to block her body. She took Long Yu's sword, but was repeatedly pushed back by Long Yu's sword. She didn't feel any martial arts cultivation on Changyue, otherwise she wouldn't have taken action against her if she was seriously injured. Although the warrior's blood is definitely more nourishing, her current state is not up to the warrior's strength. Do you know now? It's too late. Without saying a word, Changyue swung her iron and wooden knife again and chopped towards the woman. The woman tried her best to avoid it, but the Long Moon blade technique was like a dragon, and a cold light shone with the iron and wood blade. The extreme speed brought up the remnants of the path, and the woman across from her quickly became unstoppable. She turned around and wanted to run, so she released another string of silver needles, but was blocked by the Long Moon sword. With a snort, the woman couldn't dodge and was stabbed in the back by Changyue's knife, causing blood to flow down her back. Ah! The woman, who was already seriously injured, could no longer hold on and let out a scream before falling softly to the ground. Without saying a word, Changyue stepped forward and made another cut, directly cutting off the opponent's head. The woman was so dead that she couldn't die anymore. The battle is over, and Long Yu breathes a sigh of relief. That woman has a good martial arts cultivation and should be on the same level as her. If she hadn't been seriously injured, she might have had some trouble dealing with it. Is this person the demon which mentioned by the intelligent monk? Long Yu guessed the woman's identity. Forget it, whether it's a witch or not, she doesn't look like a good person anyway. It was time to touch the corpse again, and Long Yu groped around the woman for a while, and found a money bag and 2 pamphlets. There is not much silver in the purse, only a few pieces of broken silver, but 2 pamphlets are actually 2 special martial arts skills, one called Sucking Blood and the other called Zhu Yan. Long Yu simply flipped through it. Sucking Blood is a very rare healing martial arts skill, but it requires the assistance of sucking human blood, which is also the reason why the woman lured Long Yu over. Zhu Yan, on the other hand, is a martial art technique used for facial contouring. Practitioners use their true qi to alter facial muscles, achieving a transformation of their appearance. That woman didn't also use a blush to change her appearance, did she? Changyue flipped over the woman's body and saw that her appearance had indeed changed. This woman is not a beauty at all. Her previous appearance was all fake, and there is no resemblance to her true appearance. The true appearance of a woman is very, very ordinary, not to mention ugly, but definitely to the extent that it will not attract any attention when thrown onto the street. And she also had a black mole on the tip of her nose, adding insult to injury to her already unremarkable appearance. Now, as the woman dies, the true energy that maintains her facial changes dissipates, and her true face is naturally exposed. It seems that martial artists also have appearance anxiety. These two martial arts skills are rare to see, and I don't know where this woman got them from. Unfortunately, sucking blood harms Tianhe and is not suitable for long-term cultivation, but Zhu Yan can still be practiced. This skill is simply a must-have for killing people, setting fires, and robbing homes. After touching the corpse, Changyue destroyed the book Sucking Blood in the two pamphlets directly. This thing cannot be practiced on its own and is not easy to flow out. It's better to destroy it directly. Then she found a corner and buried the woman's body directly. After dealing with everything, Changyue planned to go back and continue practicing martial arts, but she had just returned to the place where she had just practiced when she saw a young woman in purple looking around. Another one. Long Yu frowned. At the same time, the woman also noticed Changyue, and she walked over with Shiran. The woman is in her early 20s, wearing a purple military uniform. Her long hair is neatly tied into a ponytail, and she is simply decorated with a jade hairpin. Her appearance is quite heroic and spirited. Miss, I don't know if you haven't seen an injured woman. Before she could finish speaking, her eyebrows suddenly furrowed because she smelled the smell of blood on Changyue's body, and have you seen Yuan Xinyao, that witch? Where is she? The woman in purple suddenly asked in question. Yuan Xinyao. Is it the woman just now? What Yuan Xinyao? I don't know. Changyue said with a bewildered expression. You dare to speak hard. The bloody smell on your body is so obvious, you must have encountered that witch. The woman was furious and raised her palm to pat Changyue, with a sharp palm like a bone-scraping blade. Is this woman sick? The long moon movement turning technique allows for flexible evasion of attacks. Changyue heard the purple-clad woman call her a witch, and guessed that the two were not in the same group. But if you don't agree with such a word, then take action. This girl's brain is definitely not normal. You know martial arts. You are indeed a scammer, dare you say you don't know Yuan Xinyao? The woman in purple was furious and reluctantly drew a long whip from her waist, swinging it fiercely towards Changyue. Is knowing martial arts a scammer? Are you just with the witch? What nonsense logic is this? Changyue was infuriated by this woman and laughed. She grabbed the whip thrown by the other person, infused her true energy into her arm, and pulled back forcefully. The opponent's martial arts cultivation was not as good as that of Changyue, and he was directly pulled forward by Changyue, stumbling several steps, and then fell and ate shit. The infuriated girl jumped up from the ground and pulled her whip back, but she couldn't move it and her face turned red. At this moment, Changyue had already drawn out her long sword and in the blink of an eye, moved it to the girl's side, placing it around her neck. The girl struggled slightly and her neck was suddenly cut open by a sharp iron and wood knife, with blood seeping through her collar. Miss, please be merciful. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded, and then a young master in white arrived gracefully. End of this chapter.